What's going on? Boom, 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 boom. Jump it up and up, boom, boom, boom. All right. Dead by Daylight Creation Reviews. Late. 8:18 p.m. right now. My time, of course. Let's see what we have today. This guy literally just became a mod within the last couple of days. Or he didn't have his tag on and he just turned it on. Interesting. This mod's probably posting the same to tell Mandy talk. Stay out of my business. This is my forum. I'm gonna make a post here to state that this is my territory. Or he went on vacation and she just covered for him a couple of days. And he's posting to let her know that he's back. One or the other. My dude, your comment section is not a goddamn changelog. Jesus Christ. It's not what this is used for. Again, they have. And he's supposed to be a mod? Or is it a. Yeah. It says mod underneath his name, so I'm assuming. Unless he found some way to add in the words mod. But they have the code boxes and things like that that you can use as changelogs. Use that and just put it at the bottom of your particular post instead of filling up your particular post with comments. Because what this is going to do is it's going to push a lot of people that this particular post has a crap ton of comments on it. And a post that has a crap ton of comments on it generally generates a lot of views. Because people are like, oh, this is a worthwhile concept. Let me click on it. And then you click on it. And you go through everything, whether it's good or bad. And then you see post after post after post after post after post. And all of these posts. I mean, some of these are actually replies back to people, to be fair. Some of these are replies back to people. And some of these are from the past, to be fair. But some of these also should be posted into the particular concept itself at the bottom as a sort of change log. So you don't have just you commenting multiple times in a row. Sometimes it's not bad, but then it gets to here, and I understand that, it's in the past, it's in the past, it's in the past, but Jesus Christ, seeing him pop again and again and again and again and again and again and again from where you keep bumping the thread back up, as you say, to keep this relevant. I, for one, don't care. I don't think many people in the forum really care if you bump your creation up every once in a while. Because a lot of people do it, or they'll go in and they'll change one thing, which makes it come back to light, by itself. But if you're going to bump it back up, don't just bump it up for relevancy so people will see your concept again. Add something worthwhile to it, Make it, boom. Don't just, and I'm not picking on this particular person with this comment, but make sure you add something to that's worthwhile, or to your creation that's worthwhile. So those of us that have looked at it before can go in and say, oh, I remember this. This was pretty good and or pretty bad. What did he add? And if you are going to, like this poster does, keep bringing it back up, you need to have a change log that lets people know, what you added. Because they're going to be seeing this post, 5, 6, 7 times in the future. So every time you see the post, you don't want people just to skip past it and continue on doing what they're doing. So, if you do want to stay relevant, notice say, he's kept this post live since 2018. Just make sure that you are always adding things to the particular post to keep it live. I usually set it and forget it. But even when I'm doing projects and things like that, I fill in as much crap as possible. I try to fill in every detail, get everything as perfect as I possibly can. I then post my projects. I get feedback, and I leave that feedback open for about a week or so. And if anybody gives me relevant feedback, I'll redo whatever portion it needs to be redone to initiate change. And then after that week, I let the project die. Anybody that's going to be on, the dailies or the regulars that are going to be on looking at the particular concept over and over and over and over and over, daily basis to go through, are going to see it within a week. Generally, unless they're on vacation or gone or something like that, and most still manage to see your concept. Is that a camera? So then after the week, I just set it and forget it. And then later on down the road, a month later, maybe 2 months, something like that, if I think it was a worthwhile endeavor, I'll try to make a sort of DLC, but an extra or an additive to it that's actually significant, now that I've had time to relax the brain and think of other ideas and things like that. I try to add to it if I find that it's significant and if the actual idea is popular enough. Now, other people, they just don't care whether their abilities are popular or not. They just kind of yeet. They throw everything at it. Sometimes they get that recognition, sometimes they don't. I actually remember doing this particular review. Well, I can't say I remember doing the review because I don't remember whether or not I did it on stream. But I do remember looking at this concept. Funny thing about it is, when I seen this particular concept, I didn't even make my actual account yet. I was still just a lurker looking through. We can go over it again. Healer. Healer. Wow. Killer. Pharaoh. Slash Memphis. Appearance, Egyptian mummy. I can't speak. Egyptian mummy. Since he's a mod, or at least the mods looked at his stuff, he has to give credit to the particular artist, or his concept would be taken down by Mrs. Mandy Talks. Kind of funny. Because yes, artists are protected by copyright, but one, whoever this is didn't even sign their work. So I mean, if you really wanted credit for your art, you should definitely sign it. Sign it, watermark it, put a symbol somewhere around the art to show that it's yours. Because if you put like your name at the bottom below right here, anybody that uses this image, it's just an image. There's no reason to actually give credit to artists unless, you know, it's just for clout. You actually don't have to. Music is different from art. Music, you have to give credit, or they can actually pursue you legally. And that's only for the particular, you know, lyrics and things like that that goes along with the songs. If you change it up ever so slightly, it's not the original piece anymore. You can probably still get away with using it. Which, I mean, you see all the different songs and things that are produced with the same beat. Art's different. In order to legally pursue somebody over art, you have to register your artwork. So, if you don't credit an artist and they're like, hey, you used my art, take my art down or I'm going to sue you, you can say, shove it up your butt. Because they can't sue you because they never registered the artwork to actually get an official copyright. You're protected under copyright laws and things like that. You know, somebody can't take your drawing and then take it in for, you know, copyright and then say that it's theirs and things like that. But you can't legally pursue them if they do use your drawing without your permission. So artists that actually are serious about your art, you might want to think about getting that copyright in. But if it's something like this, I mean, don't really worry about it. The devs here, or the mods here, are like, you gotta credit all the art to where it came from. Okay, I'm gonna put down Google Images after each artwork. I got this art from Google. Nobody knows who the artist came from. Nope, it came from Google Images. You just put a generic tag on it. This is something they shouldn't harp about, especially if it's unsigned. There's no signature from the artist on this art. I don't know why they harp about it. Don't worry about map. Tall killer. Regular speed, regular tear radius. All lockers now appear as sarcophagus. It's not sarcophaguses, it's just sarcophagus. Plus, it would be S apostrophe, not S apostrophe S. You could say sarcophagi. I think sarcophagi is the plural. And I'm pretty sure it's just sarcophagus. And are open like them. Alright, active power, transmit, usable while in lockers. Channel your power for up to 4 seconds. While the power is channeled, you move at 90%. 90% meters per second. What the hell? I guess 90% movement speed is what the MS stands for there. Well, if you're not gonna give me an actual number and all of that information wise, then I'm not gonna give you an accurate review. So this is how I'm gonna spin this. Channel your power up to 4 seconds. While the power is channeled, you move slower than survivors, and the auras of all lockers within range are visible. Each second channel increases the range of your power by 20 meters up to 80 meters. Lockers within range can be teleported inside of by looking in their direction and releasing the power. The range and charge time can be increased/decreased with add-ons. Obviously, don't ever use percents, just use speeds. Why make it complicated and say 90% move speed, 80% move speed, 120% move speed? Like, just put the move speed down. You ain't gonna do all that craziness. Also, while you're channeling, because you are going to be looking to teleport while you're channeling, obviously, you don't need increased move speed. If you're chasing a survivor around Kill Shack or something like that, and you're wanting to hop into a locker, then as soon as you start channeling, I think your move speed should be decreased, because if a survivor notices that you're going to channel to the locker and decides to keep running forward, you should lose that time. You should not be able to stay fairly close to the survivor as you're chasing them while channeling. Chase them into the room and then teleport, to the other side of the room and then pop out and say, surprise, mother, you know? So, when charging, like most charge abilities, you should be significantly slowed. When you teleport, there should be a penalty for trying to teleport in front of a survivor, the survivor noticing what you're doing, and then going in opposite direction or something like that, forcing you to cancel. Now, canceling should have a delay on it too. If you're going to, like the Huntress's hatchets, for example, before you throw a hatchet, you slow down, and then if you want to cancel, there's an animation of her putting away the hatchet, which takes time, or you throw the hatchet. But I would stick around those particular terms when it comes to teleportation. I guess another thing would be Freddy's generator, where he can go from generator to generator. Something like that. The channel may be cancelled even when fully charged by hitting control. Again, which I didn't say it the first time. I should have, but, Button combinations. Keep them to the buttons of the game. Do not use control or space or mouse 1 or X square, circle, triangle, L1, R1, or Y or B. Just use the game terminology. The more you use a generic word that encompasses all possibilities, the easier you're going to find things to be. And if you continue to do things like that, you'll notice that in your actual, real life, where you go around talking to people and saying things like that, you also will start to phase out, making the mistakes of calling, this, that, or another, or anything like that. You also won't have to go back in and be like, or people, when they're reading your particular concept, won't have to use their brains or anything like that, or look anything up, or do anything crazy. to figure out what you're talking about. It's there. Press the power button to do this. Press the active ability button to do this. You know, press the secondary button to do this. And it just flows together nicely. Let's see. This channel may be canceled even when fully charged by hitting control or by releasing power while not looking at a locker. There is a 2-second delay on transmitting to a locker a survivor just exited. You won't know the locker is blocked unless you have tried to use transmit on it. Only the auras of locker within the range of your power will be revealed to you. I mean, it goes 80 meters. So, I mean, Jesus. As long as you're not in a corner, that's almost an entire map. Only the auras of lockers within the range of your power will be revealed to you. While inside a locker, you are shrouded. The status is removed 3 seconds after exiting a locker. How long does it take to exit a locker, or do you just pop out? Entering a locker ends any chase you are currently in. Are there any perks that give you benefits for ending chases, for getting in and ending chases? If there are, I don't remember them at this time. But if there are, that can be exploited. While in a locker, you still have killer first-person point of view, but can turn around inside the locker. Why would you... What? Why would you want to have the first-person point of view inside of a locker? I guess to make it easier to teleport to additional lockers, but you're not going to really know where the hell you're teleporting to unless you play the game enough to know how lockers sit. I mean, I guess Kill Shack will be an obvious one to know where a locker is. Any main building that has, you know, multiple floors or anything like that, that's an obvious sign. I mean, there is ways to figure out where you're teleporting to, but until you learn maps that well, you're just going to kind of be lost. Also, we're talking about being inside of lockers. You said that you get the shrouded ability. Do you get the blinded status effect? That is a question that I am asking and that we, as the reader, needs to know. Survivors get blindness when they go in the locker. Does your killer? You're the one that interacted with that particular area of the game. So you should have an answer to that. If a survivor is in the locker you teleported to or tries to enter a locker you are already in, grab them. I don't know why a survivor would, I guess, to heal, maybe to make a flashbang. Or if you have barbecue and chili, I guess you can, no, because if you pick up and then drop somebody, they'll see it. I don't know. I guess if you get that barbecue and chili and a survivor jumps inside of a particular locker, oh, you exit the locker, same speed survivor does, if when they exit one slowly by pressing spacebar. Oh, so you got the slow locker exits. That's terrible. Also, one thing I'd like to point out is that uh, any instance that multiple lockers spawn by each other, you're not going to be able to have accurate teleports. So looking across the map, any lockers that are lined up or next to each other or anything like that, you trying to teleport to the particular locker is going to be an issue. And there are places like that, like Crotus Pen Asylum, where the lockers spawn like real close to each other. It's going to be a pain trying to teleport to the correct one. The bottom of the Plague's place that has like the 18 different lockers down there. And you might say, well, Q, what does it matter? You're still going to be in the same area. Well, if you know where a survivor is going, plus I'm going to assume you're going to be running the old Iron Maiden, barbecue and chili build anyways. But if you know what locker a survivor's jumping in, and you try to select that locker from a distance to try to get that easy grab, and the game doesn't let you select said locker, you're going to be pissed off. Because that should have been an easy grab for you. But, you know, that's something that's between behavior and them. Because they're going to need some way to look at a particular area and then cycle between individual lockers in that area to prevent that from happening. Which probably needs to be incorporated into that. But let's see. Active subpower dash. Only usable while inside a locker. See, this is the type of thing that just don't make sense. You literally just said seconds ago you exit the locker the same speed a survivor does when they exit one slowly by pressing spacebar. And then you immediately contradict what you say by adding in this subpower dash. Like, why not just have your particular killer just always exit the locker with a dash? He has a regular tear radius and everything else, even though he has the shroud, but he only has 3 seconds. Also, nobody even knows what this shrouded status means because it's not the undetectable status effect. But I mean, after exiting a locker, why not just make it a pseudo lunge attack so you can get out of the locker quickly and continue to move on, as opposed to go into the locker, slowly exit the locker, and then move. Because by the time you get out of that locker, most of that 3 seconds is gone, brother. Absolutely, positively gone. And anybody getting out of a locker slow like that, it's going to end up being an issue because if you teleport near where the survivor is, they're going to see you getting out of the locker. If you teleport near to where the survivor is, your terror radius is going to give you away. So, I mean, 3 seconds really ain't that great. I would just make it the where your killer dashes out of the locker and that's his thing, and cut the middleman out. You can choose to instantly dash from a locker by pressing, here we go with the mouse one, by pressing the attack button. The attack is able to hit a survivor that is near enough to the locker. What is near enough? What is near enough? Why are we using these terms? Near enough to the locker. What does that mean? Your near enough and my near enough, I guarantee you, are completely different. If your surprise attack misses, suffer a 2.25-second stun. And dash means you run with weapon raised for 3 seconds, similar to pig. Again, just as you teleport from a locker, actually redo the entire teleport thing. Have it to where he channels teleports real quick. Boom. You know, like 1 second maybe till he teleport or generates teleports. I think it was like what, 3-4 seconds? Yeah, 4 seconds, 80 meters. Make it like 2 seconds, 80 meters. Or 1 second and just keep it to where he can just see up to 80 meters. Once he gets inside of locker, make it to where he dashes out of locker and then give him a stun time for a couple of seconds. So any survivors that he actually does teleport to, he can immediately bust out of a locker, get over to where they are, or at least close to where they are, whatever the distance is of this particular dash. He then has, you know, like a jump out slash attack, or a small like lunge or something from locker. And then the cooldown that you get from teleporting will be the cooldown you get after that lunge attack. And then you can continue chase. So essentially what I'm saying is have the cooldown afterwards instead of before. Waiting on the 4 seconds. Make it like a 2-second channel. 1 to 2 second channel. You can teleport anywhere within the 80 meters with a toggleable locker switch. As soon as you teleport in, which would be instantaneously, have him jump out of the locker and go for like a pseudo dash attack. And that's his thing. He's a surprise peekaboo killer. That way, you ain't got to worry about trying to do all of this craziness, which you're not giving any type of information to. You run weapon waves 3 seconds, similar to pig. You must have been in the locker 0.5 seconds before dash attacks are usable. You're going to be in the locker 0.5 seconds because of how you set up the teleport and everything. So you're adding in things that are going to happen naturally. Again, the same with you exit the locker same speed a survivor does. Why? It's actually going to take longer to step out like a survivor when I can just do a dash attack every time I jump in to the particular locker. I can get distance on the survivor that's nearby, possibly even hit them if I'm close enough, or if they're in like kill shack generator or something like that. And then there's a very slight stun, which I mean, if it's only a 2-second stun, survivors are only going to get 8 meters from you. You move 4.6, so, you know, a couple of seconds of chasing and good cornering and things like that. If the survivor doesn't just immediately try to run a loop, you're right back on them. Plus, with add-ons to probably decrease the amount of stun and or perks, you can easily make it to where you suffer little to no stun duration after using this dash. But yeah, as it sits now, getting out of the locker, if it's the same animation survivors do, it's faster just to take the stun after the dash, because you get more distance over time. Passive power in Tomb. Lockers can be used and are treated exactly like hooks when carrying a down survivor. Unfortunately, I cannot agree with that because you were essentially giving yourself more hooks by making lockers hooks, and then hooks are hooks. And if you take away all the regular hooks and you only make locker hooks, you're severely decreasing the area of which you can hook survivors at. Because lockers don't exist on some areas of maps, and you would literally just not be able to get hooks in those areas. And any survivor smart enough to realize that, they're just going to go stand in the corner of a map before they go down, and they'll always break free before you manage to hook them. So you'll just be stuck to hold them there. Now, what I can agree with, since the passive power is Entomb, and you want to use lockers as a thing, is while carrying a survivor, giving yourself the ability to essentially teleport them into a locker and essentially storing them instead of using it as a hook, just kind of pseudo entombing them in a locker so you can either get back to them or somebody else releases them from said locker. Obviously, they're not going to be able to bleed out or anything like that while stuck in a locker, but it does take a survivor out of the game. Like if you have a gank squad or anything like that, once a survivor goes down, the pharaoh raises his hand, the survivor, gets taken away by bandages or something, some sort of effect, and swoop, gets teleported to a random locker, probably like pyramid heads things, and they get sent to a locker opposite on the side of the map or something crazy like that. That would be sort of anti-gank squad, because if they want that particular survivor back, they now have to go across the entire map to save them. Then you can double that up with like a 5 to 8 second interaction that they have to like cut bandages or rip bandages off the locker to save the survivor or something like that. So, something sort of like that to keep it from where you're not just getting extra hooks. It gives you the hooking effect of they can't be used, but it also makes it the where, they have to go and make a save. Obviously, you need to set limits to that. The amount of survivors, or make it to where you have to get tokens or something like that to entomb survivors. And it has to be balanced to where you can't just entomb all 4 survivors. Well, I guess you could always make it to where, if 4 survivors are entombed at the same time, each survivor takes a injury state or loses a health state. Survivors that are already injured get the deep wound status effect. Healthy survivors get injured. And then the lockers just release them because they got a blood sacrifice. And then the game can commence. It's not terribly strong, but I mean, if you have a gank squad and you just need them out of your way to stop bullying you and things like that, and you can just teleport them away and force them to not be able to move, that is extremely powerful. Once they see that, hey, my gank squad's not going to work against this guy, then they're going to be forced to just gen rush. Or leave the guy that has no mither, that's generally the Twitch TV streamer looking for content. You can just focus on getting them out of the way. But I don't know. It's just a suggestion, like something pseudo you could do. I'm not saying use it, but just think somewhere outside the box like that, as opposed to saying lockers are hooks now. That's insane. One, there's generally a hook by most lockers, but two, it comes in clutch when it comes to Gideon Meat Plant, the bottom of the Plagues area, all of the lockers you can find down there. And Midwich, you'd be able to hook in all of those juicy lockers, as opposed to having to go through all the doors and windows and out of Mamma Jamma and get all the way down there. But let's see what this actually does. Lockers can be used and are treated exactly like hooks when carrying a downed survivor. Locker oars are visible when carrying a downed survivor. Once a survivor is stored in a locker, it is no longer treated as a locker, but a hook until that survivor is unhooked or dies in the locker. If a survivor dies in a hook locker, it will still be usable as a hook or a locker. There is a 15-second transition period of a hook locker, reverting back to normal locker that can be transmitted to again. All perk and traits associated with hooks apply to survivors hooked in a locker. Survivors still know where the victim is hooked, and visible like entity tentacles will be coming out of the locker. To be clear, the killer can use any locker to hook a survivor. Once hooked, another survivor can't hide in that locker. Instead, interacting with it frees the hooked survivor. Again, I don't necessarily agree with the bringing or making hooks lockers hooks. Don't necessarily agree with that. That gives you way too much hooking power to where you can essentially hook any survivor in any situation. And I mean with buffed boil over, which I still think is a joke and made me laugh because people are like, oh, I'm exploiting boil over. Boil over is busted. It's exploitable. It's exploitable. And most videos you see are all in the regular old glitched, broken maps and areas where you could escape regularly because the map's just broken and needs to be redesigned. The recent one, the most recent one that I've seen, was one guy in our RPD station in a broke area of the map where you jump down and you really can't make it to a hook in time. Like, that's poor map design. That's not boil over being justified. This is not the type of confirmation you want to see from a broke perk. You're literally just showing the Dead by Daylight devs that, hey, RPD's broken. Everybody knows. Even the devs know that RPD is broken. They've taken the map down multiple times. It's going to continue to remain broken. It's not going to be good to have a map that is extremely short quarters like RPD Station. Because if you put too many hooks, nobody can ever escape. And if you put too little hooks and not in the right area, then, you're not going to be able to get any hooks, like in the glitch spots that are upstairs and things like that. The where the killer picks you up and you have to walk, the killer has to walk just to be able to jump down. And people with a boil over is like, oh yeah, the perk's busted, see? And I'm like, no, he has to spend like 7 seconds walking just before he can even get to that jump down. He's only got 16, like, Jesus. You're not justifying boil over. You're saying that RPD sucks, which we all know. And the more of these areas that I'm seeing of people trying to say, boil over is OP, see? And it's like, no, it's really not. Most places that you jump down from, there are hooks around. So people can pick you up, jump off a hook, and call it a day. The only real value you'll get from boil over is if you mix it with other perks. And or you manage to get behind a breakable door and the killer picks you up. You get a little bit of wiggle progress, and then they have to drop you and then break the door and then pick you up again and then jump down. But again, that's a lack of experience in the game killer wise and not boil over having an effect. The only good thing about boil over is it stacks well with other perks, like power struggle, things like that, Ash's perks, etc., etc. But by itself, boil over ain't that good. And then the increased wiggle skill checks and all of that don't mean a thing because, again, it goes from left to right, the left to right, the left to right. There is no double rights or double lefts or anything like that. As you're walking, you can almost get a pseudo speed boost because of how far the wiggle sends you. So as you're walking, you just turn to the left. When it hits, boom, you get a nice speed boost to the left. Turn your character to the right. Boom, you get a nice speed boost to the right. And people who've played the game as long as I have can easily continue walking in a straight line, and the new wiggle system does nothing to us. It's sort of like it was in the past, because believe it or not, they tried to implement a wiggle system like this in the past. It did not work. I'm surprised they're trying to incorporate it again because it failed the first time they tried it. But I guess, wait a little bit of time, try to introduce something old that was in the game before, or that could have been in the game before, and then reintroduce it and say it's something new, even though it's just an old idea reused. But we'll see. They're working on new characters, they're working on a new game and a whole bunch of other crap. So, I mean, I never really expected them to come out with any super big updates or anything like that aren't par for the course. At this point in time, once every 6-ish or so months, I can't even say that. It's once every couple of months, like quarterly, they try to release a different. So let's just say seasonally, just to keep things easy. Seasonally, they try to release a killer. Unfortunately, most killers that they release nowadays aren't bangers anymore. Because you can tell that a super, large amount of thought aren't really going into these killers because they have to, well, they don't have to, but long story short, they have a template. And they're people that design things, characters, the programmers, etc., etc., go off of a specific template. Within that template, they can only do so many things. So unless they step up their game and go outside of their comfort zone, they're never going to be able to push. This is the character from The Ring. So I'm expecting. Well, no, let me say this. I'm hoping that they did something interesting and unique with this character. And I'm hoping that they don't just pseudo add a filter like they usually do and then take something from like the Spirit and Nurse book and then combine that into an effect. Because that's what I'm expecting is a Spirit and Nurse, the effects of them being combined essentially and formulated into a new killer. And then, having a filter or something else added onto it. With a power unique to her for the most part. And I would hate to see it, but that's what I'm expecting. Just the kind of another generic killer that's carried by name. But I am hoping for the best. That they're getting out of their comfort zone and they continue to push and make newer, better, interesting content. Add-ons don't matter. Weapons, animations, all of that. Teachable perks, lost and found. When a survivor enters your terror radius, then they are also destroying / blessing a totem, hiding in a locker, or opening an exit gate. They will suffer from the Oblivious status effect while doing so in 3 seconds after stopping. Useless. Again, stop throwing the Oblivious status effect on things if you're not going to incorporate it right. Now the Oblivious status effect has literally become a meme. That's all it is. It's a meme. The status effect is actually good if you know how to use it right. Five seconds after a survivor stops interacting with an exit gate, it will begin progressing / regressing at 50% of normal gate opening speed until it reaches 50% progression. Okay, this perk has a 30-second cooldown. So you're trying to get rid of 25% tech, or counter 25% tech, by making it complete itself up to 50%. And then if they don't open the gate completely, you're trying to counter the 99% tech by making it regress back to 50%. But the problem you're going to have there is if the exit gate, which I mean you have 5 seconds after, but if an exit gate is touched, it's immediately going to go to 50%, and then you're going to have to essentially spend the same amount of time opening up said exit gate. You know what I'm saying? It's going to take the same amount of time after that 5 seconds of interaction. So besides countering the techs, this perk essentially does nothing. And the tech that people use is part of the game. It's one of the things that survivors can do to trick killer. Both techs are implemented in the game for a reason. 99% tech was countered by the Dead by Daylight staff by allowing the killer to just open up one of the exit gates. And then those that are brave enough not to completely open the exit gate, they have no ad. As long as the exit gate ain't open, no ad still has value in it. So no ads there for survivors that 99% things. Blood Warden is there for survivors that open gates early. And then 25% tech. I mean, no ad picks up too. If a survivor touches said exit gate and then walks away and then tries to complete it, I mean, you as a killer should be smart enough to path yourself to where you're able to get things done, or run Blood Warden if you're really worried about it, to be able to get that instant hook, or get that instant hook after a survivor opens that exit gate. Those situations don't matter anymore. This is kind of a cleanup perk. That don't matter because the ranking system's different now. In the old system, this perk would have more power, but in the new system, it just don't matter. It really don't. Also, you're going to want to not use 50% of the particular progression because there's other perks and things that'll end up stacking with that and causing it to have an issue because the survivors will never be able to escape if you stack particular perks together with that. Also, balancing wise, you're the one that's giving up 50% of an exit gate's progression. So you should not be able to balance that to make it take the same amount of time because you were giving something up. You don't want it to take the same amount of time, but survivors just get dookied on because of it. No, 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 no. Survivors shouldn't be punished that heavily for something you've done. That's like walking out, dropping a birthday cake on the ground, and then telling your son they're grounded. Like, that's not how that works. You drop the birthday cake on the ground, you tell your son, hey, I gotta go to the store and get another birthday cake you won't be able to eat for another half an hour. So uh the progression rate needs to be significantly lower. Maybe like 25% of normal opening speed as opposed to 50, even probably even less than that. Because the whole point of this particular perk is to one, apply the Oblivious so they can't know when you're sneaking back up on them, and two, to counter the text. Yeah. So at the bare minimum, 25% should be the highest there. um, two, why this? Why are you scaling the perks cooldown time? That don't make any sense here. You have a percentage here. You have seconds that you're applying the Oblivious status effect for here. You have the amount of seconds here. And yet you decide to adjust the cooldown, which needs to have a higher cooldown, by the way. If you think about it, how long it takes to open exit gates versus a killer coming through and all of that. You don't want to be able to have multiple activations of this particular perk. You want it to be like a kind of one and done situation. Or you want to separate this into two different perks and make this be like a ruin for exit gate and have it continuously reset it down to 50% of survivors let go, as opposed to just the one time it activates. But you definitely don't need a 30-second cooldown to be able to keep applying the effect. Either keep the effect applied or set it and forget it for about a minute. You run out a 60-second cooldown is more than reasonable on exit gates. The Oblivious, yeah, I guess, is kind of whatever. I mean, if you're at an exit gate, you're going to be looking around regardless. So unless you got a very bad exit gate spawn and there's like a wall or something in front of you to where you can't tell, you're going to see the killer coming back for you. um, Give and take. Kicking a generator. Priority from there, this does not stack with Ruin, but it'll probably stack with Pop on some circumstances. Kicking a generator, instead of regressing it, progresses it by 25% and gives you a token. It then begins regressing like a normal kick would cause. The initial kick does not regress the passive regression, still happens after the kick. Well, your little extra explanation just made things a lot more confusing. I understood what you said at the top, but this explanation down here don't make no sense. Kicking a generator immediately makes it progress by 25%. Yes, I understand that. You get a token. Yes. And then it starts regressing like a normal kick. Then it starts taking one off, 1 for 4. 1% or 1 second per 4 seconds, or 1% per 4 seconds, for those of you who don't know what the 1 for 4 means. What's the point in giving it a token effect if there's only one token? You completely just blew the entire perk out. You do this action, you get 1 token. What's the point? If it's 1 token with a max of 1 token, just have the effect just happen then. There's no point in limiting it to 1 token. If within 12 meters of generator, its aura will turn will turn purple. If kicking it will complete it. No. No. There should be no aura change to ensure that you're not going to accidentally complete a generator. You can look at a generator and see how much it's done. If you see the 3 pistons pumping, crazily, like fully committed, or if you see the 4th piston moving or the 3rd piston moving fast, you might not want to kick it. Heck, if you're anywhere near like 50% of that particular generator, you might not want to kick it. You should not get an aura showing that it's purple, so dumbasses don't kick it and accidentally complete a generator for survivors. Shouldn't happen. The next time you kick a different generator, it will regress it by the same amount you progress the first generator and consume your token. So this perk only gets worse. So this is worse. The next time you kick a different generator, it regresses it by the same amount you progress the first generator. Notice the keywords there. Regress it by the same amount and the first generator. First generator by the first generator you kick all game, or the first generator as in the first of the 2. Because you should definitely use the word previous if you're talking about that. I'm going to go off first generator literally and say the first generator that you kick every time you kick any consecutive generator, you are going to lose that much. Now, first generator that you kick in the game, which is going to be a random one that you spawn near. You're gonna kick it. Bang. It's gonna get 25%. And after that, you're set for the rest of the match. It gives you the ability to kick a generator and regress it by 25% per kick. And consume your token. If your first kick completed the first generator, the next generator you kick will revert the generator to 0% progression. That's just a dumb OP effect. And consume your token. The generator is then blocked permanently until another generator is done or the perk gains a token again. Okay, so the only thing people are going to do with this perk is they're going to set a 3-gen trap with it, permanently block one particular generator, and then they're just going to stand between the other 2 generators and prevent survivors from being able to do them. Good job, bro. You made an exploitable perk. Your perk may only be active on 2 generators at a time. Kicking another generator will reset the perk. Okay, there's that. Once a token is consumed, put this perk's power on cooldown for 80 seconds. So this is a horrible implementation of a perk, and you just kept stacking on and stacking on and stacking on. If you got a perk this long that does multiple things, you've probably messed up somewhere. Which means this one right here is probably going to be convoluted too. Kicking a generator, regressing it or progressing it by 25%. Kicking another generator, you regress it. So you're essentially, it's give and take. You give 25%, you take 25%. And that should be the end of the perk. That's it. That's all it should be. There shouldn't be any revert generators, do 0% regression, or if you complete a generator, you can now revert a generator. Because the only thing I'm going to do is any generator that I see almost complete by a survivor, I'm going to complete it, and then I'm going to walk over to, again, that 3-gen area. And if any of those have any progress on them, I'm just going to reset it and continue on my way. And I'm going to keep doing that until I can get one of those generators touched, revert it with the 25% thing to lock it down permanently. After that, that perk is set. And I'm not going to kick any more generators. I'm just going to chill. If you stack that 25% regression with pop, or anything like that that regresses, you know, like jolt, pop, heck, even the doctor's effect would have some effect with that. You're looking at massive gen regression. And all you're giving is 25% to get a huge amount of regression on the next hit. Because, I mean, to be honest with you, if you kick that generator to give progress to it, let a survivor touch that particular generator, and then kick that generator again after they touch that particular generator with a lot of gen regression perks, you can take away more than you've given. So the give and take's not even at this particular point in time. You'll be taking away or giving 25% and taking away about 40%. If not more. So you have to be very careful about how you play that particular perk. You also need to cut out some of the fat that's here. Now, I do think you might want to think about the 25 to 25 though. You might want to think about decreasing that and not making it an entire fourth of a generator. Because I mean, yeah, there's that one gen in the back that nobody rarely goes to, or they don't know, or they can't find it, that you can kind of use as a gen that, if they complete it, it doesn't matter because, it's probably going to be completed anyways. But think about regular play with this particular perk. If you don't kick a mule gen and you just happen, go up on survivors, you knock them off the generator, you kick it, resetting it back to 0, you're chasing a survivor. You knock a survivor down and then you hook them. Now you have to go find another gen that you have to kick. Then you gotta go and find other survivors. And every time you hook a survivor, you have to find a mule gen that you can kick before you go after survivors. And that time waste that you're making every single time, you're actually giving the survivors a lot of time. And you almost essentially have to buff your particular give and take perk to compensate for it. That's 25% every time. That's 17.5 seconds. Wait, no, that's 20 seconds. 20%, 17.5. 25 is 20. That's 20 seconds on each gen of the 80 seconds you're giving them. And then every 4 seconds, they're essentially losing a percent. So, I mean, yeah. Well, they're losing a second. Every 4 seconds, they're losing a second off of it. So they're not losing much and they're gaining a significant amount. It would take, 100 seconds or so for that 25% that you added on to their generator for it to go back to 0. That is crazy amount of time. That's almost 2 minutes. Now, I can understand, if they don't go and find the generator that you kicked and all of that, it should be blocked permanently, and you get this nice effect and all of that. Because this effect is what actually makes this perk pop. I understand where you're coming from there, and you're like, hey, I need to have another effect on the end of this, or this perk's not very good. The thing is, you added that perk onto the end because you know that the perk as you implement it's not very good. Instead of just stacking and stacking and stacking and keep adding random parts to the core, not fixing the problem, why not just go in, do the diagnostics, find the problem, fix the actual problem, and then call it a day? Replacing parts that don't need to be replaced isn't going to help you in the long run because most factory parts or the OEM or, the original equipment, the original parts, the foundations of the part are going to be better than any temporary foundations that are added. So if you have a nice OEM part on your car and you're replacing it with an aftermarket part, the aftermarket part's definitely going to break before the OEM part generally ever will. It's OEM's made to last. Most OEM parts are made to last the duration of the car. Some obviously aren't, like, air filters, things like that. But they generally last significantly longer than anything aftermarket. Aftermarket knows, hey, I need to give it a decent amount of time so the customer can essentially forget about it and not think about it, you know. But I don't want it to last the whole duration of the car, or I'm not going to get sales. So I'm going to sell you something that you have to replace, you know, yearly, bi-yearly, yearly, every 3 years is generally the tops, is what you'll get on a replacement, on a maintenance part, things like that. And we're just going to keep making you buy this part every couple of years to keep getting money again, again, and again, and again. The OEM's like, well, we just sold you the car for thousands of dollars, so we're going to make a product for you that you're going to be able to enjoy and use. If you take care of it, hopefully for at least a minimum of the next 10 years, unless you're an idiot. And even if you're an idiot, it'll still last you a long amount of time because it's OEM, the good parts. Why some people go to the dealership for parts because OEM parts are generally better, but you got to keep in mind that they're not going to give you the OG parts when you go into it. They're going to give you a pseudo aftermarket part, which may be, you know, better than the OEM part efficiency wise, but the durability wise is not going to be nearly the same because they want you to come back. Because after that car loses warranty, they can now charge you not for warranty repairs, but for regular repairs. And they're going to keep making money off of you again and again and again and again and again. So you have to keep in mind that businesses, or money wise, especially in America, where it's all capitalism, every business has to make money some way. If you're putting out bangers of cars that don't need any type of maintenance on it, well, guess what? Your cars are going to be expensive AF because you have to charge them for the would-be maintenance and things like that. They're not charging you because the car is amazing and it was expensive to make or anything like that. Like, no, they're charging you for the fact that there's not going to be any maintenance, there's not going to be any part replacements, no mechanics or anything like that are ever going to touch your car. So you're going to be looking to spend a large amount of money on a car that requires no maintenance. To the point to where you'll probably end up spending more money on the car that requires no maintenance than getting a lower tier car that's going to require general maintenance. That's how the world goes. You pay more for the premium. Anyway, give and take needs to be reworked. You need to sit down, think long and hard about give and take. That's about the only suggestions I can make for you. You need to go and look at all the other gen related perks, see how high you can stack this particular perk, and how exploitable this perk can actually be. And then think about reworking that to make it feasible for the game. Hide and seek. When a chase would have ended, it doesn't. Instead, gain a token that extends the chase. This is just a copied perk from either one of your previous or somebody else's. I don't know. That was mistuck. So if you've done this before and this is your perk, then you're just using it from one of your previous concepts. If this is not your perk, then whether or not you intended to or not, you literally stole it from somebody else's creation. So I'm instantly gonna have to ixnay that. The only difference to that perk and this perk is the chase music no longer being heard. The rest is all the same. Oh, and then that. If a token's consumed, another cannot be gained for 15 seconds. And then the chase music goes away. That's the only two additives to that particular perk. So no, absolutely not. That's somebody else's perk. At least give them credit. Survivor, Grant Dalton. Mm-mm. No, this is not the same as it was the first time. No, this is definitely somebody else's part. Because I had to think. Because I have seen all of this before, keep in mind. I was like, am I thinking about the same post and the same guy that I've seen way back when? But no, it was fairly recent that I seen a perk like this. It's not the same guy. I had to stop and think for a moment. Last stand, only usable if you've been hooked twice and are injured or in dying state. If used in a dying state, heal to injured state. You mean like Soul Guard and Unbreakable, now Boon Exponential, and a whole bunch of other perks, no Mither, etc., etc. If used in a dying state, heal to injured state after being used, gain the endurance buff for 12 seconds. Oh, so it's just Soul Guard that you can get up. So it's a mix between Unbreakable and Soul Guard. 12 seconds after being used, being used. This is actually a psychology thing. That most people reading this wouldn't even notice that there's a spelling mistake there. Because as people read, instead of looking at each word individually, they pseudo predict and guess words. It's also a testament to how high your vocabulary is as well. Not the person writing it, but your actual personal vocabulary. If you read through this post and you don't recognize the being used multiple times, then your vocabulary is probably of this level. Or you read way too fast, but it's generally your vocabulary level because you're used to speaking, saying, reading, everything like that of that particular level. So any type of repeated things like this, your mind's going to look and see BE, skip this, see the ing here, and it's going to read it as one word. Me, personally, well, I mean, I've talked about me and all of the education and things I've had in previous videos. You should know by now. These are not vocabulary terms that I see a lot. I mean, I guess on the Dead by Daylight forums, yeah, it's kind of a tit for tat thing. But that's just something to look at. If you're reading this and you don't pick up the double being, the being, then being, then that's your vocabulary. This person obviously was the one that wrote it, and when he wrote through, this was obviously wrote in his particular vocabulary using Dead by Daylight lingo. So he isn't going to naturally pick that up. Most people are like, oh, Q's going to harp over that. But no, it's actually completely natural that this mistake is there. Most people that write papers that go back and read them never notice the double types or duplicated words or things like that. I just figured I'd point that out. That's basic psychology. Anyway, 12 seconds after being used, you gain the broken debuff and exhaust debuff permanently. This ain't gonna matter on a no mither build. The next time you enter the dying state, instead die. I could remove the hook restriction on using it, but it is there to avoid people hitting it by accident and dying before they are even hooked once. Well, then just make it to where you don't die. I mean, obviously. You literally just made Last Stand something you want to activate after the Decisive Strike. Well, this is going to be ran on a Soul Guard, no mither, Decisive Strike. One of your other people are probably going to have Borrowed Time, so the last perk that you're going to need is... Oh, Dead Hard, duh. Dead Hard would be the last one for no mither build. What's going to happen is, on this person's last hook, or second hook, it would technically be their last hook now, they're going to chill. Exit gates are probably going to end up being open. Somebody with Borrowed Time is going to pick this particular survivor off the hook. They're going to stand in front of Killer. Killer's going to slap them. Bam! You know, or get that Borrowed Time activation. They're going to run away. Killer's going to catch up to them as they're running the exit door. They're going to get slapped back down. They're going to be picked up, hit him with a decisive, be dropped again, take off running, be hit, back down again, get up using this particular Last Stand perk, continue to run, it gets slapped again, getting or using that particular status effect, all while looping the killer. And then eventually they're going to get to the exit gate and going. There is a reason why they stop adding in last chance perks. Because if you run them all together, you're going to find yourself having an issue. Also, if you run Last Stand and no mither, there's no way for it to actually kill you. Because when you go down, no mither allows you to get yourself back up. So you can't just die when you have a perk that literally allows you to get back up. So it would actually interfere with the dying state this perk has. And you can literally use this perk. So you definitely, instead of saying the next time you enter the dying state, instead die. Or at least add on the can only be used once. Somebody with no mither is going to love this fucking perk. You're going to fall down. You're going to get up. You're going to have the endurance from Soul Guard. You're going to have the endurance from this perk. All kinds of other things. There's no cooldown. There's no anything like that. And the only thing you're throwing out there is death. But that doesn't really apply to no mithers. Because no mithers allows you to get back up from the dying state permanently. You can't just deactivate one of the core, perks in the game. It's going to have precedence. So you're going to knock the no mither guy down. They're going to stand back up. They're probably going to be running Soul Guard on top of that and manage to take hits for days. So good luck with that one. You're going to down them. They're going to get back up. You're going to down them. They're going to get back up. You're going to down them. They're going to get back up. This is a last chance perk. Instead of saying you're just going to straight up die, just make it only usable once. But again, like I said, the game don't need any more last chance perks. And this is an effect that can be used. So if you're running dead hard with it, this last stand, I guess it can only be used in dying state. It's not a before dying state type thing. It's used in dying state. This is essentially a deliverance, but from dying state that breaks you and everything like that. Minus the endurance. Yeah. Why not just run this perk with deliverance? The dead hard's still good because you could run last stand with deliverance. I guess there's no point in running Gnome either if you're running deliverance in it because you can pull yourself off the hook and just jet. Yeah, deliverance last stand. I'm pretty sure deliverance just exposes you. I don't think it provides the exhaustion status effect. If it doesn't overcome, I think it just gives you the broken status effect. After performing a safe hook rescue and another, yeah, I know how it activates. Deliverance causes the broken status effect for several seconds after unhooking yourself. Yeah. So it doesn't even give you the nothing but broken. So you could run last stand, deliverance, and overcome. And as you force yourself off of a hook, well, no, because you'd still have to run a healing perk like second wind. The deliverance will break you. I don't think the timer pauses on second wind until the broken status effect goes away. So you would have to run inner strength or circle of healing or something like that. But inner strength would be the easiest one because you can just pop a totem. So I guess the build here would be inner strength, overcome, last stand, and deliverance. You can pull yourself off of a hook, immediately run, hide in a locker till the expose goes away, heal yourself up, and then continue on towards exit gate. If killer slaps you, overcome gives you that huge speed boost, and if they manage to hit you down again, you can then get yourself up, run with the endurance buff, and take another hit and get another small speed boost. Regular speed boost. That's a significant amount of distance. Or just say screw it and just run dead hard and last stand. In deliverance. Jump off of hook. Use dead hard to get past one hit. Go down, smack, bam, get back up, and then continue to run. What would be the fourth perk though? What supplements that? I guess adrenaline actually. If you go down right before the generator gets done and adrenaline procs, you'll be healed as soon as you jump off the hook. If the killer's right on your cheeks, and it will give you a pseudo hit before that broken takes you. But the heal is not what I'm going for there when it comes to adrenaline. I'm more interested into the speed boost that you get from that. Because if you run adrenaline instead of dead hard or sprint burst, you just get the speed boost whenever instead of dead hard with deliverance. And this perk, you can just jump off the hook, immediately get a sprint burst, even though I'm pretty sure adrenaline might be better. So you'll get that sprint burst. If a killer catches up to you, you can dead hard. Well, now you can't dead hard after using sprint burst. Sprint burst will take place of that. It's even better in that case anyway. You can sprint burst if you get tagged and knocked back down. You can then get back up, continue along. When you go down, the broken status effect will technically go away as well. So, I don't know. There exists a build out there. And where you can really, hello bot, really run this and get a lot out of Last Stand. At the end of the build, obviously Last Stand's going to be the last thing unless you're running like No Mither or Unbreakable or something like that to allow you to get back up. But, yeah. If I sat there and thought about it for a long amount of time, I could probably come up with a perfect build. Second perk, Excavator. Start out the game with 1 token. Destroying/blessing a totem or opening a chest will gain you another token. Why such totems or chests? What? Anytime you're interacting with an objective and doing so would have triggered a killer's perk, delay the notification by 30 seconds, and consume a token. The unhooked notification will not count for this since it isn't related to a killer perk. This perk has a 30-second cooldown. I wasn't even thinking about the unhooked notification, but I guess that's good to know. I appreciate it. So that would, well, anytime you're interacting with an objective, I'm assuming being anything that's interactive with, totems are obviously an objective. Gens would be an objective. Chests, probably not. But totem gens, exit gates are. Or are you talking about just gens and exit gates? Objective isn't really a term that's used in Dead by Daylight lingo. It's not part of the game. I can take objective and just being like the thing that you should be doing at the moment, take it for what it is, gens, and then exit gates. Or objective being any type of things that help you complete the game. Because, if they're running Devour Hope or something like that, that becomes the new objective. But this would essentially hard counter discordance. I was gonna say monitor and abuse, but that's not the right name for that perk. That's the doctor's perk, I think. But yeah, perks like discordance would be delayed. The only problem I'm getting is it's 30 seconds per token. 1. Does this effect stack? If the effects stack, you literally just need to open up a chest. I'm pretty sure chests are faster than destroying and blessing totems. Open up 3 chests and everybody can gangbang a generator and for 90 seconds. Or you can get 2 if you work with 2 people. 2 generators done if 2 people work on that particular generator, and the killer's perk will not proc. It has to deal with that. This also works with other notifications like the scourge hooks that regress generator by, what was it, 16% or something like that. It would delay Ghostface's perk. I guess it wouldn't work on Ghostface's perk because you'd be working on a generator. But any perks that, like Eruption, that make you scream and knock you off of a generator, it would delay. There's a lot of perks that activate on objective that it would counter. And because of that, a 30-second cooldown, I would probably say 30-second cooldown. I mean, I know what you're trying to do. Set it for 30 seconds. It'll consume, which means it don't stack. 30 seconds, it'll use a token. And then once that 30 seconds wears out, it'll consume another token. And then it'll consume another token. So you can get that 90-second bang. But no, I think that it should be decreased from 30 seconds, and the cooldown time should be essentially double of whatever the notification delay is going to be. So you have a time of safety and then the same amount of time of being out in the open and able to be read, then a time of safety, then time out in the open being read, to make it balance as opposed to just staying stealth the entire time. Also, I would probably, after rebalancing that, change the trigger. Why totems and chests? Out of everything you could have picked. I mean, I guess it helps Hex Pentimento actually be useful. But I don't get it. Why totems and chests? Why the 2 things that can be difficult to find for such a mediocre effect? I mean, you could just make the balancing part in it. Every, I don't know, 30 seconds of working on a generator, you get a token. It delays whatever the heck it is, whatever the perk that the killer's triggering for 30 seconds. And you can really compress this and not even have to worry about cooldown. It's just 30 seconds for 30 seconds. So you can actually shorten this to whatever the cooldown is and have the activation be itself. Working on an objective for X amount of time gives you a token. The next time you do a whatever, and it would trigger the killer's ability. You have X amount of cloaking from that particular perk. There you go. A delay of notification by X amount of seconds. Definitely don't need to be 30 seconds. You can complete most of the actions of Dead by Daylight in that particular time. And if you're running self-care, I don't think you should be able to do self-care stealthily and only be able to be spotted for 2 seconds at the end of that. Gens is the primary objective, and obviously killers need to be able to get value out of it, out of their actual perks and stuff too, to keep the game balanced and fun for all parties. Get out of here, Millwall Bites. Explore. The auras of generators you have progressed at least 25% are visible to you from 48 meters away while not in a chase. If a survivor is working on a generator you have progressed at least 25%, their aura will be visible to you. Completed a generator you have progressed at least 25% will grant you the endurance status effect for 12 seconds. You are fine with the meh perk you added in this last line. Remove that last line. Why would completing a generator ever grant you 12 seconds of the endurance status effect? You're literally, throughout this entire thing, you're just adding borrowed time to every action that you do. You complete a gen, borrowed time. You get unhooked, borrowed time. You get down, borrowed time. Stop. Get some help. You've gone too far on this borrowed time and endurance status effect. You don't need a safety net for everything you do. You're getting rid of the small, very, very small horror aspect of the game. You're just taking hits left and right. Two, explore. The auras of generator you've progressed at least 25% are visible to you, which means you have to work on that particular generator 25%. And then the generator becomes visible to you, but you already know that the generator's there. So what's the point in tagging a generator that you already know is there? That's your sense of direction's like -5. There's no point in having that. I'm gonna work on this generator for 25% or 20 seconds. And then I'm just going to run away. And oh, I forgot where that gen is. Oh, golly gee willikers. Where was that gen at? Oh, there it is. Like, no. Then, if a survivor is working on a generator, you have progressed at least 25%. Their aura will be visible to you. Why does it matter? Unless you're going hardcore gen rush strats and you want everybody to be on a separate generator, that's not relevant to you. Why does it matter where that survivor is? Again, I can run empathy and I can find out where every injured survivor is and the survivor that's getting chased by killer. If they take any type of damage, I can see where they're going, what they're doing, and I'll know exactly where the killer is. Why would I care where the other survivors are? Survivor jumps on a generator that I completed. I'm not going to be sitting there counting seconds in my head to be like, okay, in 60 seconds he's going to be done. I need to get to an exit gate, or I need to go and help him, and anything like that. Way too meta and way too much brain power used on something trivial. The completing a generator you've progressed will grant you the endurance status effect is useless unless you are putting yourself in direct danger by sticking a generator. And if you are putting yourself in direct danger by sticking a generator, you need to be punished for it. To finish a generator, changing a health state is a reasonable sacrifice and a reasonable trade. You shouldn't be able to get out of that scot-free. Or scratch-free, whichever one. Depends on where you're from. Actions have consequences in Dead by Daylight, and they're there for a reason. So please remove the completing the generator. Gives you the endurance status effect. Remove most of the endurance status effect. You're literally just taking borrowed time and expanding it. They introduced your particular Survivor or anything like that. It's literally going to be a, hey, it's the borrowed time expansion killer or Survivor. It's Bill's best friend, Bob. He gets the endurance status effect on everything. Then I'm going to say the obvious thing. If the killer does get wind that you're at a generator and you're not running both of these perks together, because I mean, if you run both of these perks together, the killer should never get wind of you. Also, just on a side note, I find it funny how you said the unhooked notification will not count for this since it isn't related to the killer perk. But what about the other notifications that you can get, gen completion notifications, etc., etc. This also goes to my same thing that I said to Mandy Talks and whoever's review I did like 2 days ago. If you're going to go through and nitpick and explain every single general thing, you need to go into further detail. If you're going to go down this line and post this, well, this needs to be posted after this, and you need to add in every type of situation to explain. Or just leave that particular part out and just say general notifications will not count since they are not related to killer perks. Or notifications that aren't related to killer perks will not count. You need to make general statements instead of calling particular things out unless you're going to go into detail. Explore, again, remove the bottom line. It makes no sense. And this is just essentially a change log of all the thing that's happened. You can pause at any point in time to see any of this. I'm not going to go over any of this. This has been going on for a long time. Like I said, I've seen this before in the past. Some things have been changed drastically, I will say. But other things, the base of it is essentially still the same from the last time I seen it. I do agree that mummies and things like that would make sense being incorporated into the game. But I mean, the plague is kind of that. She is kind of, a mummified, not necessarily a pharaoh, but a pharaoh or a mummy. So, I mean, yeah, I like the idea. I wish you kind of went more into mummy lore and things like that, though, as opposed to just using the sarcophagus. There's a lot more that you could do, especially with a particular map. It could have, moving animations, possibly traps or other triggerable sources. I don't know. When I think mummy, I think, mummy lore. Very powerful leader, either a conqueror or ruler over the people, strikes fear, slave labor, torture. Then you go to like almost the Indiana Jones movie lore, where there's traps and curses and, the sun gods and moon gods and everything else that's been incorporated to mummy lore. The immortality aspects, all of that. The Pharaoh's power, to even incorporating tablets. That's kind of what I want. I want kind of like an immersive experience with mummies and things like that. That isn't going to alter the base game that much, but it'll just add extra obstacles in your way, you know, to make the game, to make you stay on your toes while you're playing the base game, essentially, is what I'm talking about. Art the Clown, already went through. Art is really cool. Was a freaky movie. Well, I don't see anywhere on here that the artwork that he posted was from a movie cover or anything like that. So he never credited whoever's this was. Post should be deleted. Where's Mandy Talks? Not clicking on that again. I'm surprised this is still here. Mod literally posted this and didn't see that. We're just openly welcoming pedophiles into the forum, apparently. That's cool. Good job, Dead by Daylight. Not discriminating against people, I suppose. All of this happened today? Jesus Christ. Everything harps about double edge. Double edge, double edge. Oh, he finally explains. Is that too hard? Yeah, he was the original creator. I was thinking of the guy that did the art. So he explains what double edge does, so I guess I'll go over this. I think this is a great concept. Just maybe rethink about double edge, as this perk grants survivors a complete generator and adds progression on 2 other generators. With the way you have it worded, anyway. I think I know what you was trying to say. Really? Really? Talk about contradictory. How are you gonna talk about with the way that it's worded and then next sentence say, I think I know what you was trying to say. I know what you were trying to say. But I do understand why there is confusion. It's past tense, not was, were. I mean, if you're going to correct them on how things are worded, you might want to make sure everything you say after that's worded properly. Just gonna throw that out there. Did you mean to say that Double Edge gets rid of all progression on a generator and adds remaining progression onto 3 other generators? No? No? You should stop trying to impart your values and try to change the way his perk works. His perk's worded perfectly. I wouldn't say worded perfectly, but his perk makes sense if you take time to think about it. It's one of those you gotta think about it a couple of times to get it. Stop trying to impart your reasoning upon his reasoning. He already wrote it. He's already looked at it multiple times. He's already been talked about it to other people and things like that. You know, it's already posted on the forum. He's already gotten feedback and things like that from Cordy. Then you're gonna come in and say the same thing about Double Edge. Why come in and harp about a perk and say, oh, well, I think this does this and that does that? Because it makes no sense to get rid of all the progression and adding the remaining regression to 3 other generators. Unless you spin it that way. And you can spin it like I did the other day 3 main times and 5 other times. You can spin it 3 different ways. It all depends on what the artist says. Instead of coming in and dropping all of this flummery, you should have definitely waited for the original creator to respond to Cordyceps. And then, after he got a proper reply to Cordyceps, then hop in and say your 2 cents. Because now you have two posts essentially saying the same thing. Cordy's 2 cents, which doesn't really say much, but does say what he needs to say. And then this is just a long, drawn out same thing that Cordy says. And then he tries to essentially rewrite the perk that the particular creator has. It's fine to make suggestions, it's fine to get clarification, but it's not fine to try to rewrite somebody else's post or perk. Anyway, gets rid of all progression on a generator and adds remaining progression on the 3 generators. The reason why this ain't gonna work is you would wait until a generator gets almost done. You would walk over it, you would touch it. So let's say a generator has about like 10% left. You'd walk over to the generator, you would touch it, it would lose all of its progression, and then that 10% would split over to all 3 remaining generators. So they just lost all of that time that they put into that generator, and then all the other generators get an extra 10 seconds. Well, 3 generators get 10 seconds added to them. Heavily exploitable. It's not going to work that way, Lulu. If you would have used your brain, you would have came to that same conclusion. Either way, I still think this helps survivors more, to be honest, as it means they can split up into different generators and you cannot defeat all at once. So I do think this perk needs some tweaking. But you're not supposed to be able to defend every generator at once. As I mentioned a long time ago, it's all about getting that 3 gen situation, having generators stacked to where those 3 generators they can't do anything with. And the way you wrote it, you make it extremely easy. You just sit by the 3 closest generators, and when they are about to complete one of the generators, you click a button, all of that progress gets erased. And if you can time it to where it's just about to get done, just right as it's about to get done, you could get about 5 or 10% added to other generators and reset that generator back to 0. 10% goes to the other 2. And then you start the whole process over, or you go to another generator because that one's going to take another 80. Then you can patrol the other 2 generators. Well, it'll take less than 80 because you generally have multiple survivors on it. So about another 30 to 40 seconds. Then you can go to another generator and chase survivors and bop them and lather, rinse, repeat. It allows the 3 gen situation to go on potentially forever as long as you stay on top of it. Or you don't give yourself a crappy 3 gen. Now, Double Edge the other day, I didn't want to go over the fact that it's a perk and can be applied to every killer. I really didn't want to. Because, like, putting that on Freddy that can teleport between generators, or a Bubba or a Billy or something like that, it's terrifying. And I didn't want to go into this line of reasoning because, I mean, everybody hears the same thing from me every time. So, there's that. I would love to see a survivor with some survivor perks to make this a full chapter. Of course you would. But I also hate people that are like this. This person is a two-faced person. The most majority, let's like, this is the most generic response that you'll ever get. People do not respect people that are like this. If the first thing that you do when you hop into a particular concept is you say, I think this is a great concept, and then immediately harp over something, and then provide a positive, interaction at the end before you leave, you are a scumbag. It gets to those situations, well, you're doing great, but it's like, just say the buts. You don't need to try to butter me up and say that I'm an amazing employee. I've been putting out 150% efficiency and all of that, and then say, but your attendance is failing. Your attendance kind of is an issue, and you can't keep missing these days. However, keep up the good work. Everything's going well. Keep working hard and all of that other stuff at the end. Like, no, don't be this two-faced person. There's a reason why when I do reviews, I hop into it. I jump in, I say, hey, killer is this by this, and we hop into it. And I say, your overview's jacked up, this is jacked up, this is fucked up, this needs to be fixed, this is crap, this needs to be sent out. This is good, though. This is very good. And as things are bad, I harp on how bad they are. As things are good, I talk about how good they are, or how close they are, or how they can be formulated and changed to be better, or you're on the right track, or something along that nature. The last couple of days, it's all been downhill except for that last concept that I went over, and a couple of more that I've done. And you want to point out the good and bad as you're going down through things. Because what you have and what makes this two-faced for those of you that are actually like this. Get out of here. Mm-mm-mm. Anyway, I had to put somebody in timeout because, yeah. Back to where I was. If you're this particular type of person, to where you want to say what you want to say, but you want to try to make you seem like not such a jerk or anything like that, you're actually amplifying the effect. I think this is a great concept. What do you think is great about it? Where's the feedback? What if they did good? And, what level or bar should they keep up? This is a great concept. It's not a great concept. You don't even think it's a great concept. You might think that it's interesting, but you don't think it's great because you never put any feedback after it. When it comes to the negative side of things, you had all of this to say, but you couldn't even make anything close to this and the great concept version of this. It's a lie. It's a bold-faced lie. You're just saying that to get their attention. You're saying it because you won't feel guilty after the things you're going to say after that. This is another person that thinks they're doing good in the world, putting smiley faces, saying it's great, how you would love to see more content and things like that. But you are a 1-star reviewer. You're even worse than the other person I called a 2-star reviewer. You're a 1-star reviewer. You're not providing any type of positive, constructive criticism. You're not letting the creator know where they, really shined at, where they were close at, close, but not quite there. You're never explaining things out clearly. You're not giving them a proper review. You're not giving them a proper comment or anything like that. You're literally just saying, I think this is a great concept. Dot, dot, dot. And I would love to see the Survivor with some Survivor perks and make this a full chapter. Also, it's not going to be a full chapter with just Survivor and perks. A full chapter has more meat to it than just Survivor and some perks. Just so you guys remember, it's got the art, it's got background story, it's got the attacks and abilities, the powers, the passive, and the perks. So it's missing quite a lot to be a full chapter. And I wish people would stop doing Killer and Survivor, then saying, this is a full chapter. Like, no, it is a Killer and it is a Survivor. It is not a full chapter. There's no way for behavior to spin this off as a full chapter. They would have to do 75% of the creation, plus balance your already killer, or your killer in concept and everything else to the game. So no, it's not a full chapter. Get that out of your brain. The thing that you did say, and you harped on things like that, this is why you're a 1-star reviewer. You went in, you harped about it, you harped about it, you harped about it, you harped about it. However, you never said anything about the good portion or the good part of that particular perk. Granted, some perks don't have any good parts or anything like that, but some do. And you keep harping and harping and harping and harping and saying what's bad about something, but you never say what's good about something. You are the type of person that puts people down easily, but you never want to say any good qualities about somebody. You got that Gen Z attitude where you come in, you insult each other, you mean to each other, you say all of these rude things to each other, and then you go about your day when somebody tries to say anything mean or bad to you. Like, no, no, no. That's not how it works. I get to say mean things to you, but you can't say mean things to me or I'm just gonna leave. That Gen Z. Etsuhara comes back and actually explains it. Thank you so much for the feedback, even though they didn't even give you any feedback except for the fact that they don't agree with your perk and then try to change it. But he stays nice and polite about it. He stays more professional. He explains that it's the latter. For example, 4 gens need to be repaired for 15 seconds to be completed. The killer uses double edge on them. Now the 3 remaining generators needs to be repaired for 20 seconds. So they are distributed evenly. 4 gens need to be repaired. He goes and he uses it on that, making it down to 3 gens. The remaining 3 gens takes 5 seconds apiece. On top of those, making their 15 timer up to 20 seconds. Can be used to create an empowered 3 gen or simply remove a gen that's placed at a disadvantaged location from the killer. A perk with high risk, high reward perk, hence the name. So, when I went over in the past and I spun it out 3 ways, it is one of the ways that I mentioned it. You can go out and about and just complete gens willy-nilly and add that timer to 3 remaining gens. And then you can go to another gen, complete that gen, and add that particular timer to the other gens. In this case, it's 3 gens. So an 80-second generator would be adding, the hell's a third of 80? 27.333 repeating? I don't know. It's so awkward. 80 divided by 3. 26. That was close. 26 plus 26.6. I'm gonna round that up to 27 because no, there's a lot of 666s if you know what I mean. So 27 seconds is going to be added to all of the extra gens. And then you can go to another gen and pop it, and 27 seconds going to be added to another gen. There are 3 other gens. It's not it's not just 80 seconds to each other gen, it's 27 split into 3 gens. Now there's 7 on the map. And if you get lucky rolls and you get it in one of the gen or the 3 gens that you're wanting to protect, you are for the most part unstoppable for the rest of the match. If you get bad rolls, as long as you get to those generators before any progress is knocked off of them, you can easily keep stacking. So with that particular perk, I mean on a Bubba or something like that, makes it really simple. Like really, really simple to just 3 gen patrol and keep survivors from completing them. At the start, you want to find the 3 closest generators and you want to immediately start patrolling them. And as you get them locked down, you want to head over to another generator, apply that effect to that particular generator, which will then, if you're lucky, hit at least one of the 3 gens that you're going. Well, I guess it has to, right? Well, no, I guess it don't have to, but you would assume 2 generators in the distance are going to be popped, which would take you down to 5 generators, and you would pop one. So yeah, one of those generators will definitely get hit, if not 2 of those generators. Then when it cools down again, you would like to get a second pop on another generator. So you could probably get about 2 pops. That's 27 times 2, which is 54. 54 plus seconds being added onto your actual generator, which would make it like what, 134 seconds or something like that to complete said generator in a 3 gen situation. Obviously, way too OP, needs to be hard nerfed. I talked about all of that and the implementations and all of that, especially if it's like a speed killer that can run fast. Heck, even Wraith would actually have some stand there, but definitely Bubba with his cords and all of that to allow him to zoom. Even Belly would probably have a leg to stand on here. Plague would be amazing too. Because if you ran her and you threw up on the particular generator, you can wait till survivors get sick off of one of your 3 generators, and then you can immediately head back and know that it's being worked on. Same with Hag. Nurse might be too slow for that. I mean, Nurse is fast because she blinks and her blinks come back fairly fast, but you would have to have pinport teleportations to get across map to one of the farther generators and then come back. It's going to be a significant amount of time. Atsuhara. Thank you for pointing this out. It's supposed to mean that it will take longer to complete 3 random gens. I'm added is the repair time needed. It will not give progression. We'll try to rephrase it. Again, the perk that could have been semi-useful, he kind of spun it off in one of the ways that doesn't make it like super OP, but makes it kind of semi-OP. And now it's kind of shaking my head. Because of the way he implemented it, I do recommend that he reworks that. So you're not literally just forcing 3 gens and then camping the 3 gens. I mean, forget Bubba camping in a basement. Now you're going to have Bubba camping 3 gens. Good luck touching that gen, because if he comes, you're getting cut down. Then, when it comes down to the last survivor, if it's 3 gens anywhere near an actual exit gate, he can actually knock one of the 2 survivors down. Bam! Complete the generator. Open the exit gate. Activate Blood Warden. And if that other survivor's dumb enough to run towards an exit gate, which they probably will, his aura will be revealed. Especially if you have like barbecue and chili with Blood Warden. You're going to have an endgame build, is essentially what I'm saying. You're going to want speed from like Noad and maybe another perk. You're going to want aura reading, maybe like Bitter Murmur. Might help towards the end too, but you're going to be running an in-game perk build. As soon as that activates, they're pretty much screwed because you want to take a majority out as you're setting. Well, you want to take one out or at least get a hook as you're setting up for this particular thing. And while you're gen patrolling and things like that, while also keeping an eye on your 3 gen situation, you want to keep things going. Only scary thing about this is you can't run Ruin, so you would have to run Pop with this particular perk set. So you'll want like Noad, you'll want Pop, you'll want anything that knocks progress off of generators. But I mean, if your generator's stacked to, you know, a huge amount of time, knocking off like 18% is going to actually be a lot more than 18%. You know what I'm saying? It's going to be a ridiculous amount. Well, 18% on a regular generator. It's going to be a ridiculous amount on a stacked generator. All right. So with 4 generators for 75% progression, you can use double edge and 1 generator complete it, then the other 3 will lose 25% of their progress. What? No. It's what's left. Stop trying to incorporate your version of his perk into your logic, stupid. He said remaining. Go back up and reread. Remaining. Stupid. Remaining. Again, this person trying to spin the perk their own way instead of actually reviewing and looking at, you know, the product that's in front of them. You telling me that I can wash my hair with it? No, ma'am. You're supposed to wash your face with it. But it has 20% less suds, so I can wash my face with it. No, or my hair with it. No, ma'am. You're supposed to wash your face with it. That's the situation happening here. If 4 generators were at 75% progression, if you use double it, wait, why would 4 generators be at 75% progression? Why would you, what? But if this situation was to occur, you would complete this generator, and then that 25% progression would be distributed or regression at this point, but would be distributed between the remaining 3. So whatever 25 divided by 3 is, no, I'm not doing it. It's like 8.3 or something like that. I'm not doing the exact math. You can come off of that. But like 8.3 repeating would be distributed to the last 3 generators. So they would essentially lose, what, 67? They'd go back down to 67% essentially. Or you could say they would take 108.7 or 108.3 repeating time to complete. I don't know how you managed to get this backwards. You know how OP that would be? If it just left off and it took that 25% and distributed between the last 3. If what you're saying is correct, then I would just complete a fully completed generator. If I have 4 generators, go to the one that has the less progress, complete that, and then knock all the rest back down to 0. I'm assuming it can only target generators that have progress. It's not going to be able to target something that's on 0. So at the beginning, when you knock a survivor down, complete a generator, and you could just knock down every generator that has progress in it, all the way back down to 0. So at the end of the first hook, you'll essentially have 1 generator completed, as opposed to 2 plus. That's crazy. Kinda, but there's actual progression per se. More like if no generators have any progression and the killer uses double edge on them, 3 random generators need to be repaired. 133% to be completed. And he just said what I said, but in a smarter way. You complete a regular thing, 33.3% gets distributed into 3 different generators randomly. Oh, okay. By the way, I've just created a FNAF concept. Oh, yeah, you are the circus baby one, huh? So you literally. I know. Lulu, you're a piece of shit. That's all I gotta say. You're an actual piece of shit. You come in, you ream the man's butthole, and then you ask him to review your part. I dislike people like you. You're the type of person that never really gets things done the right way. Like, for example, YouTube career. You're the type of person to go to 1,000 different small channels, live streams, and say, hey, I'm trading sub for sub. If you sub to me, I'll sub to you. And then you get up to 1,000 subs and you have no concurrent viewers. And you're like, hey, YouTube, hey, sponsor me. Or whatever. And YouTube says, no, you do not have concurrent viewers. Try again, kid. It does not work. And I keep trying to tell people that keep coming to my streams asking for a sub for sub trade or a follow for follow trade or anything like that. If you don't have a based viewership that comes through and watches your content daily, you're not going to get anywhere. I could have 1 million subscribers that I could essentially bot in, so I'm not bothering other people. But I'm not gonna have the concurrent viewership and things like that. I'm just gonna have a crap ton of subscribers. I'm not gonna make any money because the 1 to like 3 people that views every video isn't gonna net me anything. You're looking at about 10 grand per 1 million views. on a video. And that's, the upper end of that spectrum. People that have sponsors and advertisements and, things like that that are tailored to get them more money, obviously are going to be the upward spectrum of that. Somebody like me, if I was partnered by YouTube and I got, you know, a million views, I probably wouldn't get anywhere near that $10,000. I'd probably get about 5 grand of that. One, half the people that are watching probably have ad block on and don't even watch the advertisement, so thanks for the view, but I'm not making the whole 1 cent that I'd get off of you as a, somebody that watches advertisements. I don't care now because I'm not a partner with YouTube anymore. So it kind of is whatever. I don't want anybody to watch advertisements for me because I'm not getting any money off of it. It's just YouTube being YouTube. Essentially trying to monetize my content for themselves, even though they're not paying me any portion of it. And they expect me to take the, well, you're using our platform for free. So you should be happy that we're not taking any money from you and we're supposed to just live with that. It's like YouTube. If you're going to fair use me and you're going to use my content and put commercials, ads and everything else on top of my content when they click on videos, albeit it only happens rarely. It doesn't happen every time, but rarely. When I click on, I'll get a ad, and I'm like, YouTube, you're making money off of my content, and the few people that click on my content that don't have ad blockers, you're making money off of my content, and you're not paying me any of it. Like, how fucked up is that? You should have a flat rate for everybody's content. If I decide to put out a banger of a video and I get a million views on this particular banger of a video, but I pick up no subscribers, YouTube's going to make that 10 grand. All of it's going to go into their pocket because they're going to start adding ads to my content, and I'm not going to see a lick of it because I'm not a partner. That is how YouTube just cucks everybody. It's disgusting. Why do I have to have a partnership to get money from YouTube? Whatever I manage to pull out, I think that I should be paid. Especially because I used to have a partnership with YouTube. I had it all linked to an AdSense account and everything. Then I get an email one day saying that, oh, we're changing the terms of service. I'm like, all right, well, I should be still grandfathered in, whatever. The next thing you know, well, your partnership with us is ended until you get these particular requirements. And I'm like, you son of a bitches, I was already partnered with you. What the fuck do you mean? You're just gonna randomly end our partnership because you decided you wanted to, hold things at a higher bar. I should be re-grandfathered in and I should still be getting paid. Because guess what? You ain't paying me. I'm not gonna go out there and do all of the, excess work. I'm not gonna hire an editor. I'm not gonna have the theme song. I'm not gonna have the, everything, put together to make it look highly professional and things like that. I'm not throwing away money for YouTube to get more money on top of it. Because I'm going to be paying YouTube a lot more money than what YouTube's going to be paying me. And I'm going to be losing money as opposed to gaining money. YouTube needs to have a backdoor clause that if a video gets over, 10,000 views, that person should automatically get some sort of monetization, some sort of kickback from that. Even if it's half the rate of a partner, it's still something. Give me something or an incentive to put out higher quality content by paying me money. Granted, most of what I do is for my own personal archive and is for fun. But I mean, if somebody's going to make money off of me, you know, you need to pass some of that down. If the shit rolls downhill, then the money needs to roll downhill. Because if I get banned off your platform because somebody says or does something stupid, I'm responsible for that particular content. So why aren't you responsible for the advertisements and everything else that's played on my particular content? You know, pay me. Pay me, YouTube. Pay me. Stop using my content for free. Pay me. If not, you're going to piss off somebody one day and they're going to make a better YouTube and they're going to have it restricted into sections to where you can just label your stuff high content or 18 plus content, mature content, content for kids, etc., etc. And they're just going to drive you through YouTube and you're going to lose most of your partnerships because they're going to pay more money. You know how easy it would be to have all of these popular streamers that have millions of subscribers to either dual stream to both websites and make more profit, or for them to just, as things are going through, transfer on social media, say, hey, I'm going over to this website. Hey guys, follow me. And have his main crowd follow him to another platform that pays more money. That platform that ain't just cannibalizing people's channels and things like that and screwing people over left and right. At the end of the day, it's an American company and it's all about capitalism. It's all about the money. It's a shame. It really is. Because you have no incentive of putting out, great content until you become partnered. Because you get no kickback from it. Skipping that. Let's see. Survivor perks. This literally, I just reviewed this perk, yes? If you are left unhooked during the second phase to the end and the killer is within 24-meter radius, the hook breaks, sending you free. You are broken for the remainder of the trial, grants of pain, blah blah blah. Killer can moor you when down. You get endurance for 9 seconds, hook stays broken for 60 seconds. So this is an old school perk. They added in the hook being broke free, and then they added the endurance status effect. But this is already somebody's perk. Scarecrow. The Scarecrow makes perk owners injured noises. So this is just a diversion that you can put in lockers that stuns killers when they open said locker. I mean, I personally would like to just run Deception, which does the same thing minus the stun, but it gets rid of my scratch marks. So Scarecrow, way too much activation to try to get a Scarecrow that don't really do much. Because it says nothing about a noise activation when the killer or when the Scarecrow's put in the locker or when the survivor's kicked out of the locker. So it literally just sits there making noise the entire time. For us all, gain 1 token for every protection hit. Each token increases. I think that's supposed to be base sabotage speed by 1%. So you're getting a 7% increase. You'd obviously have to use this with Metal of Men. And run this with, is it Resilience? Or is it the other one? I think it's Resilience is the one that lets you do things faster when you're injured. There's a lot of perks that completely cannibalizes this perk. And to have to take a protection hit in order to get tokens is very risky. I would rather run Metal of Man and just get the extra hit as opposed to just getting speed. For those of you who are like Bud Q, keep this in mind before you finish that statement. The time that you are going to take leaving a generator, running all the way over to the chase, taking that protection hit, and then running and healing, and then running all the way back to another generator. You're not getting a lot of value out of this. It'll help at the end of the trial, exit gate wise, but I mean, all the time you're missing that you could have been working on gens or doing anything else, totems, gens, you know, anything useful. You literally are losing to try to activate this perk, which makes it useless. You're actually losing efficiency by using this perk. Killer perk. So, I mean, if you want this to have any value, you should definitely rework this to do something else different. And don't just increase the percentages up to like 5 or 10%. That's not what I'm talking about. But rework this. Injured noises and lockers. I mean, you can barely hear a survivor that's injured in a locker. It's very muffled. So in order it for it to be audible, anybody or any killer that'll hear like these huge audible noises, unless they're running spirit, are going to know that it's a trap and they're not going to worry about opening up lockers. Plus, if they're running Iron Maiden, then, you know, they ain't even going to worry about it. Last chance. The fact that, well, I guess Morian actually takes a lot of time. If you're going to add a perk like the last guy did, and made it as soon as you go down, you die, this would probably be one of the renditions of the perk that you could possibly do. But I mean, it's the same thing. It's the same perk from the last thing that I just did. The only difference is they added the hook lets you go. So you don't have to run deliverance on top of that. They just took out the deliverance portion of that, made it to where that lets you down and all of that. And they added in a more animation instead of you just instantly dying. So the person that I did that and I said that they were wrong, they actually had a better last chance than this particular last chance. By better, I mean more balanced. This is somebody else's perk. This, once people understand how this perk works, you're not going to get very many killers with this. Maybe new killers. If I walk by a locker and I hear somebody crying from it from that distance, at least from an increased distance, you know, it's kind of a, you know. If it's regular sound, you probably won't even hear it. I mean, you might be able to get like a trickster or a huntress that are just trying to re-rack their weapons by placing a trap there, or anybody that uses locker. to replenish. For anybody that likes to search lockers a lot, you'll get activations on them. But I don't see me giving up an entire perk slot for the ability to put traps, especially with an activation like that. This perk can be redone to actually make it worthwhile. The activation, though, not very good. Definitely, I'd suggest changing that. And then the whole Scarecrow thing and making sounds and all of that, you can spin that to be a great perk. It'd be on par with like the rock and all of that, but instead of throwing a diversion, you're literally just sitting one down. You can put it in like a corner or something as you're being chased or something like that. And then yeet out. Well, I guess there'd need to be setup time. So during chase probably wouldn't be that good. But if you place it before you work on a generator, maybe, might help you out. Or place it by yourself as you're working on a generator. So if a killer comes around the corner, they'll hit the Scarecrow and get blinded or suffer a cooldown just on a hit. Instead of immediately clapping you. Scarecrow has promise. Last chance, that's a copy of another perk. Scarecrow, if reworked, can become useful lure. For us all, you're losing efficiency there. Killer perks, broken risk. You start the trial with 2 generators completed. All survivors are broken for 160 seconds. Survivor grunts of pain are increased by 25%. So what you're saying is, at the start of a trial, survivors are potentially going up against the plague. So, I mean, obviously, I can't necessarily endorse this particular perk because this is just plague. You start off, bro, or you get broken, you stay broken essentially the entire map. You'd probably also want to change this to an activatable perk that activates in some way instead of starting the trial with 2 generators completed. Maybe have the perk activate after 2 generators are completed. And then associate this with a activation. Or just make it a hex perk and make it to where the survivors can deactivate it if they find it. That will, one, make it kind of fair for survivors so they're not stuck 160 seconds just like, okay, well, this sucks. I mean, Legion would fucking love this shit. As you hit 1 with that full tear radius with the killer instinct, you tap 1 and then you look around and you can see where every single survivor is. Broken risk is a very big risk, and I don't know if it's really worth it. Out of everything that you could have given the survivors, why the broken status effect? Broken's plagues. I mean, you could have even went exposed status effect, which would be essentially saying the same thing, but, you know, if they have any type of, I don't know, it's different. How do I explain the broken versus the exposed? Exposed, if they get hit, they instantly go down. If they're broken, they just can't heal. So any type of, you know, medkit effects and things like that don't necessarily fall into play. And if you run this particular perk on a trapper build that has the trapper traps that injure survivors when they deactivate them, trapper can literally just put traps around and survivors would down themselves. It'd be hilarious. With the exposed status effect, they'll just take an injury state, so it prevents that from being exploited as much. And if they're exposed and they do get injured, I mean, they can heal if they want to and still use the other perks and things associated with it. But it doesn't completely, screw things over by making them broken. Because not only are you starting everybody with no mither for the first 160 seconds, you're also making their grunts and pains and all of that increase by 25%. Obviously, this should actually be in the opposite direction. Grunts and pains and all of that should be minus 25% complete. Because, I mean, if you run this particular perk, I'm going to assume you're going to use Nemesis's, Pursuer perk that allows you to see survivors at the beginning of the round that instantly get these quick downs. And then the final thing, this timer is way too goddamn long. It shouldn't be anything over 80 seconds. And even 120 seconds is pushing it. That would be like a corrupt intervention stack with this. Not only could survivors not do the generators farthest from you and be forced closer in, they're going to be broken for that amount of time. So at the bare minimum, or the maximum amount of time this should go for is 80 seconds, and that's one generator's worth of progress stopped. They can hide and give up their beginning game rush, or they can continue to work on generators and risk it for the biscuit, which is where the broken risk aspect comes in, and they can get clapped. Survivor side. Broken risk killer side is you're starting with 2 generators completed, and yeah, if you don't get out there and clap survivors, you're looking at a bad time. Grunts of pain should definitely be decreased by 25%, not increased. And then, like I said, I would change this activation and make it different than just 2 generators being complete, being the activation of this perk. Or at the start of the trial being the activation for this perk. The 2 gens and all of that's from the activation. All ears, well, I'm all ears is Ghostface's perk, so all ears is definitely going to have to be renamed. Survivor running, breathing, and injured noises are increased by 100%. So if you run both of these, you have 125% increased noise. This makes this perk definitely need to have decreased. So now I'm on it, it should decrease their noises by like 50%. So when you run this, they only get a 50% buff on top of those. And you have to run Strider or something like that to get the full boost. It takes up 3 perk slots. I don't think the original perk creator realizes how many killers can benefit from this and immediately just slug an entire lobby if they get the right build for that. That's disgusting. You should at least, at bare minimum, how the way this perk is set up, clap 2 survivors. And as long as you don't go for pickups, I mean, what are the other survivors going to do? If they do pick that particular survivor up, and if they don't have Unbreakable or something like that, which most people don't run that often. At least I don't see people that run that often. Then you'll have 2 survivors on the ground, and if they do the foolish enough thing is trying to pick that survivor back up, they may possibly get clapped as well. Or if you're very quick at your job, you have enough time to go clap a survivor, get the barbecue and chili, go to another survivor, get that clap done, and just keep, clapping survivors left and right. 2 at a time, 3 at a time. Oh, clap all day. All ears, Strider exists. And all the other perks that the spirits and other mains use. They use those efficiently. They have no issue getting the downs and everything like that. They don't need this additional help. Unforgiving heroism. If a survivor takes a protection hit, they are broken for 80 seconds. Why do people... Why do people always like to bring this up? I've seen this perk, and like 1 in every 4 killer perks or killer creations, I see something or an equivalent of that. Stop it. Protection hit is a survivor giving up one of their health states in exchange for another survivor. It's an equivalent exchange. You don't need to have all of that. And Dougman comments, since I'm a killer main, I'll comment on killer perks. It doesn't matter if you're a killer main or not. You can be a survivor main and comment on killer perks. It's just a different perspective. That's it. I don't know why you had to say anything about being a particular killer main. Also, Dougman, if I'm correct, you are the guy. Hang on. Yeah, that's what I thought. I thought I recognized your name. Yeah, you are one of the ones that typically goes through, and you're the one that generally complains about things. And then when it comes to like Hex Third Seal and things like that, you make these stupidly overpowered killer perks. I knew I recognized the name Dougman. So whatever I'm about ready to read from Dougman, before we get into this, take this with a grain of rice, because I'm probably going to disagree with 95% of what he says. As a creator, he's very hit or miss. When he misses, he's way off target and goes farther off target. When he hits, he hits the target. Might not necessarily hit the actual, bullseye part or any of the other thing, but he hits the paper. Better than what I can say about some people, but still ain't that, like, super amazing. Since I'm a killer main, I'll comment on the killer perks. 1. You don't even say what killer you main. Since I am a nurse main, since I'm a pig main, since I'm a legion main, I'll comment on killer perks. You don't even say what killers you run, what rotation, what anything. Broken Risk. I think the idea of a killer perk where the match handicaps the killer with 2 gens completed is interesting. I'm not sure everybody being broken for 3 minutes is enough of a benefit, though. Hard to say. 3 minutes is way than more of a benefit. You're getting more benefit than the actual gens getting completed. You realize that within the first 80 seconds of a game, minus travel time, 2 to 3 generators should be getting completed. Say by the time the first person gets chased through and hooked, 2 gens should be completed. Is another way of saying that. So you're getting way than enough value, or more than enough value. And because you can clap the first survivor quicker as you're coming up on them, as opposed to having to hit them, then chase them and hit them again, you can down that survivor and move on to the next situation that much faster. You're not making any sense, Dougman. This is why all of your perks end up way too overpowered, because you want to keep boosting and boosting and boosting and boosting, and you're not thinking about game balance. You're not thinking about all of the killers, the game mechanics, times, and things like that. Grunts of pain being increased is a fun touch. Just a minor note that Iron Will would still completely negate that, though, because of how the system multiplies its reduction. Iron Will does not multiply its reduction. By the way, it is all percentages are additive, and I don't think subtractives is a word, but it's all addition and subtraction. If Iron Will makes grunts of pain go all the way down to 0, then the grunts of pain being increased by 25% will increase grunts of pain up to 25%. So there's that. Again, I don't agree with anything that he says there, but Dougman believes in overpowered. All ears seems really similar to Strider, probably a bit too much overlap with that. Well, I mean, obviously, it is Strider. Unforgiving heroism. There's already a pillar perk that does exactly this called Force Penance. Force Penance is a thing. It's Pyramid Head's perk. I don't think it lasts for 80 seconds, though. And I'm still against the Force Penance. We'll look it up. It's like 60 seconds, right? It's definitely not. Oh, they changed it. Well, I'll be dang. They changed the 60 seconds to 80 seconds. Hmm. Well, I'll be damned. That's an issue. I'm still against Force Penance. Every time it's been brought up to me, when I say that, well, when I said what I said, it should be an equivalent exchange thing. Whenever you take a protection hit for another survivor, you should not receive the broken status effect in exchange for that. There are a lot of effects that you can give the survivor that takes that particular hit, but it don't make sense to give them 80 seconds worth of broken status effect. I don't agree with the behavior. It's your game, do whatever you want, but it's kind of bullshit. Especially when it comes to Pyramid Head and, well, any other ranged killer. Somebody takes a protection hit from somebody and you get a hatchet to the back, or Pyramid Head hits you with the range attack that he has, or Nurse teleport bobs you after she gets unstunned, or anything like that. It's just BS. Or Death Slinger gets a hit in and then quick scopes you. Well, I guess quick scopes ain't a thing. Hard scopes you. It's bullshit. I do agree that survivors should be punished for trading at the hook. And then, the person with the borrowed time takes the hit afterwards, and then they both run away. You know, trading at the hook. Well, I mean, that's the proper way to get him off. Trading at the hook is them going down while unhooking another survivor. I do agree that trading should be punished. I do agree that, as survivors are running to the exit doors, it's kind of bullshit that all four can run together and keep taking hits for each other going towards the end. But in that case, this perk really doesn't do much. Unless you're running, like speed perks where you can catch back up and they're running across the map or something crazy as opposed to the 10 feet to the exit. Now, 80 seconds is way too far, even on force penance, because it gives you the ability to run after the guy that takes the protection hit or continue to go after the person that just got unhooked, either or, and essentially down both of them. Because one guy can't heal and the other guy just got unhooked. So you take your pick. You take one down, you go after the other one, and then you pursue them. Bullshit perk. It's not super, super terrible if it's the borrowed time protection hits and things like that. But if you step in a bear trap in front of somebody, that counts as a protection hit. If somebody's at a generator with somebody and a huntress is a hatchet hits somebody, that counts as a protection hit. So, this unforgiving heroism can give people an exposed status suspect that they didn't necessarily want. When you're pulling somebody off the hook, if you are healthy and you pull them off the hook and then you take a hit, that counts as a protection hit. If a trickster's throwing knives and you just happen to run out there and you take a hit of damage, that counts as a protection hit. And it goes and adds and adds, and a lot of things count as protection hits. It'll give you that 80-second timer. Wouldn't be bad if it had limited activations or a higher activation, trigger. So you just ain't clapping people left and right. But I will probably never agree with force penance. I think I said penitence. Force penance as it's implemented now. But he is correct. It does exist. It's brought up to me very often when I say that I don't agree with anything about protection hits causing something. But, behaviors goes out on limbs sometimes and they do whatever they want to do. For better, for worse, who knows? This person says last chance is insanely beyond hyper busted. Scarecrow having the stun is excessive. When them wasting time searching is effectively a stun. For us, all seems relatively fine. It wouldn't be that much of an access. I'm assuming that it's gonna work like Blast Mine. And it's not necessarily going to be an actual stun because I mean it's a scarecrow. I'm assuming it's actually going to be like a blind instead of a stun. But even if it is a stun, I'm assuming that it's going to activate as they're touching the locker, not like they're going to completely open it and then it's going to be like bam and then they're going to close the locker back. Like no. So it's going to end up being the same amount of time. maybe a second difference. It's not going to be that excessive. But I mean, if a killer's dumb enough to actually walk over and open up a particular locker with a scarecrow in it, that's kind of on them as well. If you didn't see a survivor running to it and you somehow start hearing noises from lockers, you have to have your sound turned up like extremely high. Which again, people that don't like facing Doctor because they say that his attacks and everything give them headaches, turn your sound down, stupid. I ran Doctor Main for a long time. I faced plenty of doctors, and guess what? I don't have my sound boosted to where I can hear every single step that a survivor makes, every single breathing, every single movement, etc., etc. Turn your sound down. Use the sound that the game's designed to have, and not your boosted sound to where you can hear everything, and guess what? You won't get headaches. Absolutely stupid. The stove keeps burning me. Well, then stop touching the stove. Broken Risk is hyper killer dependent. On some, it'd be busted. On others, it'd be useless and literally throwing to run. A pig just railed over in its grave there. All ears is mostly useless because Iron Will counter the injured sounds. I mean, how often do people actually run Iron Will? Let's be honest here. How often do people run Iron Will? You act like they're just gonna know that you're using that particular perk and they're gonna pick Iron Will to counter it. And even if they do, you would still have 20% noise, so it actually counters Iron Will as much as it gets countered by Iron Will. They'll still make noise, it just won't be that loud. And with people boosting their audio, that 25% is enough for them to be able to hear somebody injured. It does overlap with Strider, though. Unforgiving heroism already exists as forced penance. I mean, Captain Obvious, if you would have just taken the time before you wrote all of this and 10 minutes prior looked at his post, that was already there. Stop repeating what other people are saying. Z-Wolf. Last Chance can be edited for 8-meter radius as an anti-face camp perk. Can't count how many times a killer, mostly Bubba, just stood next to the survivor for 2 minutes. Camping Bubba in the basement. Let's go. Use my favorite example. Thing about it is, camping is a strategy. It is a strategy, as long as he's not face camping and not giving the survivors an option to actually unhook. Camping is a viable strategy. Thing about it is, if that Bubba's sitting there for 2 minutes, 120 seconds, you should be able to get a gen. Well, there's 3 other survivors. You should be able to get 3 gens done, and then another half of a gen, plus whatever the runtime that survivor added on to that. The Bubba camp somebody, use that time to your advantage to gen rush the shit out of them, unchallenged, and then GTFO. Bubba won't rank up. It's the people that keep giving him, the ones that go down and try to make these stupid saves that they know they can't get, that end up empowering Bubba and giving him that power, that snowball effect. Learn how to play the game, learn how to counter the killer strategy. Dougman, just for reference, that's how Strider and Iron Will used to work at them points. Blah blah blah. Change modifier. Blah blah blah. Which unfortunately means since Iron Will modifier is 0, it will now completely negate all sound regardless of whether or not Someone is using Strider for the perk you suggested. I don't know if that is true. To my knowledge, Iron Will does what it says. Grunts of pain and breathing are now multiplicative values. This makes Striders useless against Iron Will and off the record. So it is multiplicative. If you're playing Survivor with Iron Will and Killer has Strider, you will heal yourself, cry out. So grunts of pain and breathing are multiplicative values now. When did they change this? Patch 5.1.0. Now, so this was a recent change. Okay. The executioner's rear may still be too flat. Picking that boy up then. Well, what DBD patch are we on? 5.3. So ever since patch 5, they changed that. Interesting. So Iron Will is just the completely end-all be-all. It's only grunts of pain, though. But it doesn't do anything for nature's calling. Interesting. Because that just stops screams. Iron Will stops grunts of pain. But Strider does more than just Iron Will is just grunts of pain. Strider is was it whispers, sounds, things like that? Does that Strider only cover pain now? Hmm. Interesting. Oh well. To fix that, all he needs to do is just add in a clause. Interesting. But then again, let's get to the main thing. People aren't gonna know you're running this particular perk. And ain't nobody just gonna randomly throw on Iron Will out of nowhere. Unless they're just, I guess, tired of getting freaking stalked or slapped or chased every round. They go for like a pseudo stealth build. Like Urban Evasion, Iron Will, Spine Chill. You know, something like that, I suppose. But I mean, you're literally picking up a very, very low percent counter. And even if a survivor is running Iron Will, the chances of all four to be running Iron Will, unless they're like some very weird gank squad, very, very low. So you always get at least some value out of the perks like Strider and things like that. The problem of a perk design like Last Chance is that solutions, behavior have already tested or are way too abusable. E.g. slowed slash stopped hook, timer, self unhook, relocating hook. People who are aware exists and coordinate will absolutely put the killer into situations it would be positively dumb to not face camp. E.g., multiple survivors around makes it dumb to chase one and give other an immediate free unhook when they have to come to the hook anyways. What the hell? What are we talking about? Load slash stop. Behavior have already tested on our way to abusable. Load slash stop hook timer. Kinship. Self unhook. Deliverance. Relocating hook. Pyramid Head's box. What do you mean they've been tested and way too abusable? They're in the game. What the fuck are you talking about? Everything that you've mentioned is already implemented into the game. What do you mean they've already tested and made them way too abusable? All of this exists. All of this is going to continue to exist. What are you on about? People who are aware it exists and coordinate it will absolutely put the killer into situations it would be positively dumb to not face camp. It would be dumb not to go out and go after the multiple survivors to get these hooks. Because if you have survivors standing around the particular hook and they're playing the cat and mouse game, they're not doing generators. You have them in a positive position where you can, I'm going to go after you, I'm going to go after you. And you just kind of keep going back and forth to keep the other survivors at bay to make sure they're not getting gen progress. Now, Dead by Daylight wise, you obviously wouldn't want to sit there and face camp this person till they get off of the hook. And then have to mori them because knocking them back down and dealing with the endurance and all of that and dragging them to a hook's probably going to take more time than just your basic mori. Unless they go down right next to a hook, obviously. But to do all of that, just to have them jump off of a hook and get an endurance effect, and then you have to take the mori animation and all of that, it's not worth it. I mean, like, what? People who are aware it exists, that knows that they're using that perk, and coordinated will absolutely put the killer into positions it would be positively dumb not to face camp. This happens all the time. One killer will go in for a rescue on a hook. The killer will either stay and camp that particular hook, chasing the survivor away, or he'll commit to another battle or another chase, or he'll just hook the survivor and continue on about his day and continue moving. When is face camping, unless you're like a Bubba in the basement, obviously, when is face camping ever the solution when you have survivors around you? Let them get the free unhook. Go out and chase the other survivor. When they unhook them, turn back around and slap that person back down or take another survivor's booty. Get them trades. Depending on what killer you are, you might be able to get a grab. Or if you're a Bubba, just cut more people down. I don't understand what this person's saying. Everything they're saying is incorrect. Multiple survivor around makes it dumb to chase one and give another an immediate free unhook. What do you mean? Once they're on their second phase, there's no need to stay around anyway to watch and see if anybody's going to pull them off the hook or anything. If they're all around, by all means, get them past their first hook, then chase somebody else, let them take that person down when they're in their second phase, and then immediately go after them. Because I guarantee you, you can catch that survivor and re-down them before that 60 seconds expired. It should only take about half of that time, especially if you wait out the borrowed time activation and then bonk them afterwards. So, I'm not understanding what this person's saying. I'm not exactly sure about the wording you use, but if you mean as in when second phase would end and thus sacrifice, then people would come just at that moment. What the hell are you talking about? The perk activates the moment you are supposed to be sacrificed. Instead of you going up to the ether or to the entity, the hook breaks, allowing you to run. If you mean for the entire second phase, then killer could exploit it by just leaving for a few moments just outside the radius and then stepping back in. So on, so forth, various other intervals. What the hell are you talking about? It gives you the endurance status effect to where you can take an additional hit. And when you go down, you're more evil. You're done. That's the end of it. What the fuck are you talking about? Like, I'm generally confused. We're talking about last chance. Last chance is this perk. If you're left on the hook during the second phase till the end, which is when you get sacrificed, and the killer is nearby, the hook breaks, setting you free. So the killer does not get the sacrifice. The hook breaks, setting you free. You remain broken for the remainder of the trial, so you can't heal, which is fair. Grunts of pain are increased by 50%, which is fair. And the killer can mori you when you are down, which is fair. You get the endurance status effect for 9 seconds, which gives you time to run. If you're near an exit, that's more than enough time to take the hit and get all the way to the exit. Or run straight to the exit if the killer doesn't bonk you. More than enough time. Or at least get to a loop to where you can use that. And then the hook stays broken for 60 seconds. So once the hook's gone, it's gone. I'm not figuring out what this particular person's saying. It doesn't say that this post has been edited anywhere. So this is the original post. So he's reading the same thing on last chance that everybody else is reading. Now, I must say that 24 meters is kind of a huge radius. That needs to be bumped down to probably the max being like 8 meters. Which, I mean, I think that's roundabout what he says. Last chance can be edited to 4, 6, or 8 meters. There. To make it to where if the killer is anywhere around you, it happens. But if you mean as in when second phase would end, then people would come in just that moment. If you mean for the entire second phase, then killer could exploit it just by leaving for a few moments, just outside the radius, then stepping back in, so on and so forth for various other intervals. Yes, but the killer has to be beyond that 8-meter tear radius, or that 8-meter radius, or in that 8-meter radius for the perk to activate, or he has to be beyond it, which is enough space for a survivor to come in and pull that survivor off of the hook. Once that survivor is pulled off of the hook, it just becomes a borrowed time type thing, especially if that person has borrowed time. Then that person can actually take 2 hits now. 1 hit will get rid of the regular perk, then borrowed time timer would start, because it's the longer timer, and then they could take a 2nd hit while running. So it stacks very, very scarily with borrowed time. You still get the same amount of time, but you can get multiple hits during that little bit of time. So if the killer doesn't be patient and wait, you'll probably still only get 1 hit, but they have time to work with that. If it's like a immediate trade, they can get the double hits in. So I'm not understanding this. And it's not an exploit because it's literally supposed to make the killer have to back out. The survivor can just walk in the last couple of seconds that's left. And if you're running kinship, then you have 30 seconds on top of that where you can get that particular survivor in and out. You can even add more time to that. But that's the whole point of this perk. This is an anti-face camping perk. Not an anti-camping perk. Anti-face camping perk. You want to back that killer up enough to where you can get that unhook, but you don't want to force them to go a decent way away that they can't stop the unhook. You know what I'm saying? The 8 meters is perfect. This person's just being dumb. The killer could exploit it just by leaving for a few moments just outside the radius and stepping back in. Yeah. And as the killer walks away, the survivor is going to be already in, grabbing. And if the survivor does go in early and the killer decides to walk back in the radius, then the hook breaks and that survivor gets unhooked anyway. So it becomes a high octane cat and mouse game. Do you go for the fake unhook and force the killer back in so they can get the full unhook on themselves and get the endurance? Or do you run in and go for the unhook while the killer's out of the radius? Which again, you're being punished for trading in that particular situation as opposed to, doing gin rushing and getting out. So I hope you at least have borrowed time. And they get that protection regardless. Generally, the only non-abusable method that exists at the moment is instead encourage others to do generators instead of coming in for a suicidal unhook. It's not suicidal, because you're forcing the killer away. Thus, why a more positive option such as Kindred's Killer Aura Reveal is better. Then survivors know the killer is face camping and can repair generators without wasting time to go unhook. Powering out generators is the main counter to face camping. But this perk isn't designed for that. I agree with what you're saying, and I say it all the time. If the killer's face camping, they're not going to really get much value. Gen rush and get out. But this perk is designed for that person that's being face camped. Or for the survivors that want to save the person being face camped. That's what this perk. Oh, I was going to say operators. Oh my god, I was going to start speaking Italian. Why did that come in? The operandi memory. I don't know why that popped in my mind. So the perk is doing great at what it's doing. It's making the killer stay at least 8 meters away, which I mean, granted, it's only about what, like 1.5 seconds worth of walking, but I mean, in that 1.5 seconds, survivors can get another 4 meters out. So, I mean, a little bit of time to move and things like that, and to essentially get in without trading. Well, not trading as hard. Anytime you go up against a face camping killer, you're going to have to trade health states to get that other survivor out. That's just, it is what it is. This person's not understanding the functionalities of the particular perk. And I mean, the way they talk and things like that, obviously they're not at an iridescent level or any type of high ranking experience. The fact that he calls going in for a suicidal unhook when this perk literally prevents that, especially if you're running borrowed time. I'm not understanding. Stick to the script, stick to the plays, stick to the techniques of unhooking. You don't have to worry about it. And anybody that wants to have any type of argument with me about me being wrong, there is a video, I think I called it like Meg Squad or something like that, where we had somebody getting face camped and we all came in. The rest of us came in, took hits, and we all ended up going out of the exit gate at the end of the match. It would have been even better if he would have had that particular perk, because none of us would have had to exchange health states. If the killer would have stayed nearby, things like that, he would have just gotten out on his own and we all could have ran and then took blocks afterwards, as opposed to before. Video proof that a perk like this would actually have a little bit of merit. Now, I still have issues with last chance and things like this. I mean, obviously, this is somebody else's perk that they've already incorporated with a couple of added things to the end of it. So, I mean, I still can't endorse it and say, yeah, but when it comes to defending a perk for its value, I will hop in and say that this perk can be incorporated to do what it needs to do. And coming back in and respinning it, which I would have done now anyways, and looking at things again, last chance can be reworked to be pretty damn good. It can be usable. Don't take anybody else's perk though, but this can be usable. Perk balance, I mean, they're just perks. They're either hit or miss. There is some interesting ideas, like Scarecrow can be made into something amazing. Last chance, if it wasn't like somebody else's idea that you added on to, could be made into something amazing. I definitely send this to the original creator and at least ask for permission to use his idea, and or send it to him so he can update his if he likes your idea with it. Credit him, do something. And my methodologies when I come to reviewing all of this, you know how I feel about these before even I know how I feel about them. It's all just a mental checklist. Every time I see that, I just shake my head. Why is this still in the forum? Like, just why? Why is that still there? Um, That's what I said. How would you implement Vanny? She's not an animatronic. That's exactly what I said. I don't know how they'd implement her. I'm not a game designer. I mean, they would probably implement her the same way they implemented Legion, but I mean, Vanny, as we all know, kind of likes to prance around and dance and move slow and put on shows and, do all the things that Glitch Trap does. But, yeah. I said I was gonna go over this today, but I think I might save that till tomorrow. Plus, I'm starting to get kinda hungry. So the two that I said I was gonna go over today. No, I went over one. This is just something that's been brought back up, yes. Yes, this is just the circus baby thing going over again with the scooper and all of that. Um, I'm not gonna go over this. Why? Because Lulu's a piece of crap. Creator. Atsuhara. I mean, we just went over your thing. Went through all of that crap that was just said. Lulu. Very, very, very massive loss of respect there. So I ain't going back into the circus baby thing. I was gonna say blue baby. Holy hell. Circus baby aspect. Tomorrow, I'm gonna check out. Well, shit, I lost the new. I'm gonna check out the most faithful. There was something else that I guess it was the mummy was the second thing that I wanted to check out today, and I went over the mummy. That might have been it. I don't know. If I missed any of your concepts, I apologize. Send me a comment, message or something, and say, hey, you SOB, you skipped my concept. Now, if I specifically stated that I'm skipping the concept for something like whoever's on the last page, no. This one, yeah. Like this, who has multiple different posts back to back to back to back. If I specifically said I skipped it for a reason of something like that, it had 2 posts back to back or 4 posts back to back. Don't message me. I didn't do your reviews. I skipped it for a reason. But if I generally am scrolling through and I said I was going to cover your particular thing and I forgot to, then please let me know. I feel like I was on like 3 hours there. Almost 4 hours, baby. Let's go. Either way, that's going to be the end of the creation reviews. It is 12 o'clock a.m. Woohoo. Yeah, late. I'm hungry. Because I slept most of the day, and my sleep schedule's going to be messed up because it's been getting super cold at night. So when I wake up in the morning, it ends up being, negative, well, not negative, but low in temperature. And I end up curling under the covers and being like, well, I ain't getting up. It's too cold. And then I fall back asleep and I wake up later on during the day. And then I'm like, it's still too cold. And then later on in the night, when the heater's been on all day and it finally gets, fairly warm in the house, I spend like a couple hours in the actual warmth. Then I get up. Right now it's 12 a.m. It's starting to get kind of cold. I ain't gonna lie. It ain't like super cold because my computer stays very, very toasty because it's like right by me. So, I mean, the heat from it Keeps me toasty. But enough about that. 3 hours and 45 minutes, baby. My name's QTASTIC. And always remember, supplement your lifestyle, and I'll see you next time. See ya.